Hello, chat. And hello, my BFF Biff, who tried to put a mark in their eyebrow when they were like 13. And good morning to Factual Lie. So the sentencing hearing feed isn't live yet, but I thought we have this little gem that we could look at. It's real short, but you guys know attorneys will say, hey, this isn't legal advice, but, well, here's a moment with some, not actually advice, but some, why didn't my client just do this instead? Then nobody would have known. I thought this was really kind of funny accidentally. So here we're going to hear a quick statement from Christopher Dontell's attorney from 7 months ago.
Dontell and Jackson happened. It never ceases to amaze me when people create a romantic relationship, how their brains fly out the window, to be quite honest. And that's exactly what happened. He was a coroner. He had access to every crematorium. There was a crematorium at the Myrtle Beach funeral home. It never made sense to me why the body wasn't just cremated, because then nobody would have ever known, and nothing. I don't think that we would even be here.
Summer checks.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, I had the same question, right? When we watched the trial, we heard that they had the body in the back of the van. I remember Meagan Jackson was a body transporter. Christopher Dontell was a coroner. They had brought the body in the back of the van to a funeral home. They got some blankets. They had it, I think, in the fridge at some point. And one of those things we're wondering, like, does it have a crematorium? Could they have just, can you do that without somebody noticing? Is there something I don't know? Because that seems like probably a better move than going to a Lowe's with no mask on your face and using your information with your cell phone on your person, using your work vehicles in the parking lot to go buy the cinder blocks and zip ties and the tarp and a Pepsi, all on camera, and then disposing of a body in a river that ends up being found by people who see it floating later on, stuck on a tree. So I just thought it was very, in a morbid way, kind of humorous to see his attorney say, why didn't they just cremate? Why did they just cremate? So, and no, this is not legal advice qualifier there. Good morning to Brooklyn. Good morning to Trakisha. Sean B, good to see you. Amanda Robinson, Creatively Gary Yell, and the big boss of the show, gifting 5 kattnotwilliams memberships. Big thank you to STS and Simon. Good to see you guys. Now, for context, if you guys missed the trial, in my opinion, Meagan Jackson, she stood trial. She was found guilty. She was sentenced to life without parole. For Christopher Dontell, the day his trial was supposed to start, before Meagan's trial, he stands up and says he wants a plea. He wants to plead guilty. He wants his deal. And he just wanted to plead guilty to accessory after the fact, but they get him to agree to conspiracy to commit murder and accessory. So the first carries a maximum of 15 years. The second carries a maximum of 5. So he's facing up to 20. And one of the terms is that his sentencing would be withheld until after he testified against Meagan Jackson. So there was the possibility, a defense attorney really could have hammered at him like, hey, you're just saying what you have to get yourself out of prison, aren't you? And I personally think the defense attorney did a piss poor job. And throughout the trial, I always try, my expectation for trials is a fair trial. The defendant is entitled by the Constitution to a fair trial. So my bigger criticisms tend to aim in the direction of prosecutors. But in this trial, I was just like, what? What are they doing? So all in all, I ended up finding Christopher Dontell to be a fairly credible witness. I believe it's more likely than not that he didn't know Meagan Jackson was just going to get out of the vehicle and shoot her common law husband / father of her children. I actually believe Christopher Dontell didn't know that was about to happen. So, but before that, and maybe with a better cross-examination, maybe I would not feel that way. So I wonder what his sentence will be like. I'm going to refresh over at Court TV because sometimes, nope, we still haven't started. Sometimes this will start, but it won't actually start on my screen. So got to check there. If you guys wanted to, we could check out some of the testimony of Christopher Dontell. All in all, it was a smooth trial, you guys. Most of us met because we watched a trial that went over 100 days. So to get together and watch something that took about 5, and I think jury was back with a verdict in just under 2 hours, you know, just in and out type of trial. Um, and again, the real drama and the real mess was the substantive material of the case, not the way it was presented. Um, hey, good to see you, Bray. Tay Biz TV, good to see you. I woke up this morning and saw again the Mickey Steins video up on my screen. So was revisiting that right before I had to start this stream. Brooklyn says, I hope her daughter makes a victim impact statement, but it would be rough to watch. I think we might see one from one of, I don't know how many sons and daughters, because I know they have at least one daughter and at least one son. But one of the sons spoke at the bond hearing, so I'm assuming for victim impact, we'll probably hear from him. I think his name's Xavier, maybe? So, yeah, I'm sure we'll get some heart-wrenching. Because I mean, think about it, the kids have like, obviously, Christopher Dontell's family is impacted, right? His wife, when she testified, she's like, "People might still be wondering why I haven't divorced him, but truth be told, I haven't been able to have a private conversation with him in the years since this happened." It's been like 3 years and change at this point, or approaching 3 years. So, his family, and then obviously the children of Meagan Jackson, they lost their father, Gregory Rice, and now their mom's doing life without parole. So they essentially lost both their parents. So just twisted. Yeah, and that's this again, not legal advice, right? But good advice, I think. Common sense advice. Positive masculinity says the chick has a gun, you have to follow her instructions. I mean, eh, probably the safe bet till you can get up out of there. So, and maybe I should double check on this common law thing, because it was 7 years and it's something that I started to hear. So maybe I just adopted that and shouldn't have. Let's see what South Carolina says. Because they had some like litigation going on. Let's see. Oh, it was abolished in 2019 in South Carolina. But what happened? Did they doo, doo, doo. We're just reading here from the Steele family law firm. So let's see. All new common law marriages. So yeah, I think that might be the confusion. So they don't have common law marriage now, but the law only abolished moving forward. It wasn't retroactive. So if it was before, yes, I think if they had a common law marriage, it would have still been valid. So there you go. See, interesting how things change and evolve. And then let's see. We started over here. Nope. Heck yeah, Candace is doing the multitasking, watching and working. Yeah, factual lie always has to refresh too. That's why I'm usually late, and it's crazy. Sometimes it'll be like 20 minutes have passed because I'll start doing something and waiting for it to play. Time goes by, and then the next thing I know, I'm 20 minutes late to the stream I was 20 minutes early for. Sugar, good to see you. The big Nick Starro says, when I pass, I will instruct my family to cremate, then have a hidden letter saying, if my family cremated me, one of them ended me. Just the preemptive murder mystery for Nick Starro. Nick, you're doing the Law Lego and libations. I always forget the libations part. Coming up with Turtle Boy, right? In MLS. Let's get that link, because I'm pretty sure I saw you on that too. And that's coming up in a week. So on the 21st, you guys, we talked about the Lego streams yesterday. MLS it looks like Nick Starro and Turtle Boy will both be on the panel building Legos and talking all things law and libations. Okay, so let's see. Monday. I'm putting TB for short. Lego stream. So that's going to be super awesome. And that's again, guys, those are usually for East Coasters. That's 8 p.m. Usually they're later in the evening. They start around that time. I love to watch it while I'm cooking dinner. It's like easy to listen to. So big thank you here for the super Nick and good to see you. Hey to Susan. We're just gonna keep refreshing over here because I swear it's gonna do the thing. And if it doesn't start sometime soon, we will revisit. I think direct testimony is really where we get the story. You guys know I usually like to watch cross examination. I feel like with the YSL trial, cross examination is where we would get the, oh, that's what really happened. But in this trial, the direct really did the storytelling. The state, they did a good job with their direct examination questions and laying out what they needed to lay out. Defense just kind of got up there and said, like, hmm, and looked over at the jury a lot. Taybiz TV, thank you for the 5, says, I saw the new video from Court TV of people that were in chambers being interviewed, even though Stamper spoke to no one and he's lead investigator. Oh, interesting. Hold on. So let's drop that in the chat. Are you doing a video on that? Oh, we got music. Let me mute that because they'll get me for that. Um, that's interesting. That's a common thing that we hear, right? Hey, there's obviously some people you should have spoken to. This piece of evidence demonstrates multiple people you should have spoken to. You're you're the lead investigator and you didn't think to speak to these people? And then now at this point, you didn't speak to them until months later, even if you were to speak to them now. Yeah, we definitely have a problem there. So let's see. Where do they got? Let's get that link. Oh my gosh, Court TV uploads so many videos. Okay, so here's that. And it was one of Vinnie Politan's shows. Vinnie Politan, Judge Mullen. So there's that in the chat. Okay, and Tape will be covering it. Good to know because I'd like to watch with your commentary. So I will look for that stream. Hey Shannon, good to see you. We've got D in the building with the thumbs up. Factual lie, says Mr. No Socks. All right, we have some courtroom. Get it together, Court TV. Oh, they took us out. They took away our virtual Rule 22. Very weird to play like these jazzy vibes when someone is, I mean, assuming he's probably going to do at least a little bit more time. He does get some credit for time served. Um, but pretty odd to play this jazzy, like wake up, get your workday going type of music in the background of somebody's sentencing. Ooh, Tay Biz with the T. Stamper, under oath at Stein's preliminary hearing, said he did not talk to anyone from Chambers. Very interesting to me. I actually, so the Mickey Steins, that's the sheriff that's charged in the shooting death of Judge Mullins. I thought that preliminary hearing was pretty effective as just what I'm a member of the public watching it. I thought the defense, I thought his counsel asked some questions that raised eyebrows for me. So, and that's really important, I think, when you have this, you have a video of the act taking place. It looks pretty clearly to be Mickey Stein's. When you have like that's strong evidence, that's strong evidence of the who done it and what was done. And when you have that, I think it's really powerful to, at such an early stage, be able to raise questions and make the public ask, what's really going on here? Not only curiously, why would somebody do that, but why isn't the investigator talking to people they should be talking to? I think that's very good for the defense, although they still have a lot to overcome. So Yeah, court TV is jamming. Just jamming over there. Yeah, Mr. No Socks. Yeah, so the attorney, every day we were looking to see if he was wearing socks. And I don't think we had him wearing socks any of the days that maybe on day one. Did we notice on day one already that he wasn't wearing socks? Because I don't think we've had, since we started looking for socks, I don't think we found socks on that attorney. And Trakisha, I wouldn't say lackluster because they were a bit bombastic, but they were lackluster in terms of doing anything to really move the needle for me. So it did not move. And I do think the facts were just plain bad for Meagan Jackson. I don't think there was much that an attorney could do to, convince a jury that she wasn't guilty, but they were very, very theatrical. Yeah, okay, so Brooklyn says never wore socks from day one. Ah, that just seems like sweaty with the type of shoes. Like, I don't know, not breathable shoes and you're not wearing socks. Ugh, just crazy. Yeah, Tay-Biz says Megan was cooked for show. Extra crispy and fried. And like, if you guys are new, if you're popping in because you wanted to check out the sentencing and you've never seen this channel, I'm not trying to speak for my entire chat, but I would say at large, we tend to watch trials where there's some hot mess going on with the investigation or with the prosecution. And my interest in this trial was I'm like, oh my God, a coroner. It involves a coroner. That could be messy. That could impact other cases. And in the end, it seemed really isolated to just this affair he was having with this woman who happened to be a body transporter and he happened to be a coroner, right? They didn't even make use of the cremation option. So I went into it with expectations that didn't really play out. But typically, and again, not to speak for the chat, but I do think we lean towards cases where the prosecution just seems to be a bit disastrous. And it's not really all that often where even if we disagree on the innocence or guilt or the liability of whoever's being accused of something, usually we're like, hey, the process has some stuff that needs some fine tuning here or major tuning. But here we're just kind of like, all right, this is, we don't know what the defense attorneys are doing or if they could even do anything. The facts just look plain bad for Meagan Jackson. So, and I do have this. We're waiting for it to pop up. Uh, I know that they're actually live and running because their banner's still scrolling behind. So we're not missing anything. And then, Felicia, good to see you. Yeah, okay. And Tay-Biz, back to Mickey Steins, right? Another one where, I mean, some pretty bad facts. You're shooting the judge on video in chambers. It's a pretty bad fact. So, a big journey there for the attorneys. But speaking of this preliminary hearing, and I recommend going back and watching that. It was fairly short. I think it was like 40 minutes. Um, but in a preliminary hearing is there enough evidence to move this forward? Bartley asked Stamper if he'd spoken with anyone, and he says no. The prosecution basically showed the video and that's it. No lead up questions or anything. And I mean that's really all they have to do. Again, that's such a bad fact, right? They're just on video shooting. Hey, we want to charge this guy with shooting somebody. And from that video itself, there's no way to lodge, I would say, a justifiable use of force. And if they're going to go with some type of heat of passion type of defense, I mean, that doesn't get you out of a prelim of things moving forward. So I did see a little caption word pop up. Nope, it's still music. Very moody. So we can watch a little bit of the direct, you guys. Or you know what? I could pull it up without. I have passed me on the one I have pulled up. It's your call if you want to if you guys want to find it on another.
Yes.
Still in the jail clothes and shackles and everything. This is before I realized he might be credible, right? I thought they were going to hammer him on this deal and say, you're saying anything you want to say just to lessen your sentence. And then I think he's actually credible.
Get you to state your name and spell your last name for the court.
Christopher Allen Dontell. Dontell.
I'm going to have you spell your middle name just because there are a couple different ways to spell Allen.
Allen, Allen.
Okay, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Obviously, you were in custody at this time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been in custody?
Since September 9th of 2021.
When were you arrested in this case?
Was arrested November 11th of 2020.
Were you out on bond for a period of time then?
I was out on bond for, I believe, about 10 months.
And what happened to put you back in jail?
The bond got revoked for contact with my co-defendant.
What did you do before?
His bond got revoked because he had contact with Meagan Jackson. They weren't supposed to be talking to each other, and they were talking to each other. And we never really got more details on that.
Before you were arrested?
I was a deputy coroner for the Oregon County Coroner's Office.
Did you have any other jobs or businesses?
I did. I owned a totally unrelated business in facility maintenance with a business partner in Maryland.
Now, was your case called for trial in December of last year?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened when it was called for trial?
When it was called for trial, I pled to accessory after the fact and conspiracy.
Had you had any conversations with me or any other representative of the state about that plea before you stood up and said that?
No.
Do you have any agreements whatsoever with the state that's causing you to testify today?
No.
Did you plead guilty to those charges because you are in fact guilty of those charges?
Yes.
What are you hoping to get from testifying today if there are no agreements between the state and you?
Personally, I'm hoping to get a, obviously less time. I'm also hoping to provide closure for the Rice family.
Were you, I'm going to sort of jump around just a little bit because I'm going to go to after the murder and before the murder. Were you interviewed multiple times by law enforcement prior to your arrest?
Yes.
Did you tell the truth during those interviews?
No.
Why?
A few reasons. One, I was still trying to protect my job. I had a family, a house, I had a career, I had a good life, and I'm trying to protect it. I'd also been threatened by my co-defendant. If I ever told the truth, she'd kill me.
You said one of the reasons is that you were trying to protect the house. You had a nice house and a family. Does your family still live in that house?
No.
And some people might think it odd that a man is afraid of a fairly petite woman. Why were you afraid of her?
Size doesn't make
because I watched her
someone
kill
not
father or kid. And the friend did the same thing to me.
All right. So now, how did you come to meet the defendant?
So, I believe it was early 2018. She came to work for Grindstaff Transport, which is the company that contracts with the coroner's office as well as several funeral homes in the area to do body transport. I had worked for them for several years at that time, and when the defendant came to work for Grindstaff, I was one of the ones that was kind of put in charge of helping to train her. So I taught her things like, different funeral homes have different preferences for how you speak to the families and the questions you ask, and things that you do to the body when you get back to the funeral home to prepare it for embalming. So I trained her as to the preferences of all those different funeral homes, as well as the preferences of the coroners, so that we could serve our customers the best we could.
You've sort of explained it, but what does a body transport company do?
Okay, so the body transport company, in the case of a funeral home, say a funeral home calls, we would go to the place of death, meet with the family, ask several questions that are repetitive. You ask the same questions with each body. And then bring the body from the place of death to the funeral home and prepare it for embalming or cremation, depending on the circumstances. And in the case of a coroner call, we would respond to the place of death, and that could be anywhere from a hospital bed to the side of the road, anywhere in between. And we would work with the coroners while on scene just to make their job as easy as possible. We would draw blood if they needed us to draw blood. We would help collect bodily fluids. We would help package evidence, really whatever they needed.
Would body transport workers work alone or in pairs?
Both, depending on the circumstances. On a coroner case, typically it would be alone, because usually on a coroner case, there's firemen or police on scene that would help us with the bodies. In the case of a funeral home, most of the time, 2 people would go, because the family's there and you want to make sure you're handling the body with care and respect.
Did you ever see?
Did you do that here?
Lifting a body?
Thousands of times, yes.
Did she always require assistance?
No.
You said that you met her, I believe you said sometime in 2018. When you first began working with her, did you introduce her to your family?
I wouldn't say it was when I first went to work with her, but I believe the first time she met my family was when we were living in a condo off of 38th Avenue in Myrtle Beach, and my wife was pregnant at the time, and we were moving into our new house in Conway. So I was having to box things up and lift the weight on my own because my wife couldn't lift because she was pregnant. And I just happened to be talking about it on one of our death calls one day that, I had a lot of work to get done. I was having to box things up. I didn't have much help. And the defendant volunteered to help me lift the boxes and move them downstairs and things like that.
Her in. That was her
So I
in.
took her up on that offer, and she came to the condo and helped, and she met my wife.
Do you know where the defendant was living at that point?
She was living in Merle's Inlet.
Who was she living with?
The victim in the case and her 4 children.
The victim being
Greg
Rice.
Rice, yeah, sorry.
When you moved from the condo, where did you and your family move?
We moved to River's Edge Plantation off of Highway 90 in Conway.
At some point, did you and the defendant begin a sexual relationship?
Yes.
How did that begin?
Well, it began, I would say, when there was a time I invited her to lunch at a restaurant called Bricks in Myrtle Beach. She came to lunch with me, and she ordered several drinks. It was the first time I'd seen her drink. She ordered a bunch of amaretto sours and got hammered drunk.
The
After
amaretto
that,
sour.
and let me backtrack. I was a regular at Bricks. I went there a lot. I went there with my family. I went there after leaving the hospital from autopsies for lunch. I was a regular there. So after the initial time that the defendant met me there, I continued to go there on my own, and I started seeing her there. I would run into her there. She would already be there, and she would typically be drinking by herself. And she started becoming a regular there herself, more so than I was.
This was before your sexual relationship began?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting.
No, you're fine. I'm just trying to make sure we keep the timeline correct.
I got you.
So I have a just general life question. What do you guys think is the right threshold, the approximate threshold of, you meet somebody, maybe you're getting close to somebody, you guys have some connection, it seems to be mutual, and then they start on their own showing up to the same places that you are, with the context that you introduce them to that place. When does it go from being like, oh, this is a pleasant surprise to, maybe this is a little bit too much plucking yourself into my life? And obviously, how often do you think people don't realize that until they're thinking of it later in retrospect? Like, hey, yeah, she kind of really inserted herself because she was always showing up even when I didn't invite her. And, at some point, it's cute to go out of your way to surprise somebody, maybe. But when you're doing it this way, it seems like a plot. It seems like a plan. It seems very strategic. We've got STS with the third date. And great question here from Starfish and Coffee. What is it with married folk? Can't they get a divorce and move on instead of killing each other? For the first part, obviously, I would say we should always do that instead of killing each other. But for the first part, I think that litigation, the expenses, the financial burden, I think there's valid reasons why people that really aren't together anymore genuinely do not deal with each other. But the divorce is not official on papers, right? I think that's something that happens more often, and the litigation aspect is probably the biggest reason. But instead of killing each other, yeah, I think we should always, go the divorce route before getting to the latter option there. Trakisha, have a good meeting. And yeah, at some point it just starts to feel like stalkery, and I don't know, like, I wonder if there's like a women and men difference here, and maybe just me as a female, as a woman, someone showing up where I am, is it more, am I more inclined to feel like, hey, that's a little too pushy? And is it something, I don't know, I don't have these anecdotes, I don't know the experience of others. Is it something where men don't think of it that way, because especially if the woman's smaller in size, they don't think that that's physically scary in some type of way. So, all right. And Wayne says we do have live. Okay, let's do law and crime, because at least they won't have the music either. Let's get over there. Let's see. Okay, here is that feed. Doo, doo, doo. And okay, they don't have closed captions here, you guys, just so you know. Switch my banner. Positive masculinity says, LOL, guys are ignorant. Ever seen a woman blatantly hitting on a man and the guy is dumb as F about it? What do you mean? She likes me? It's like that. I can see that. Yeah, and Starfish and Coffee, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to intentionally like stereotype or say there's a difference, but I'm just trying to explore the difference. And Starfish and Coffee says women look for those stalkery vibes, almost like gotta be cautious, whereas men just think she wants me. Factual lie just says Brian Higgins. Well, yeah, I don't want to do that. I personally, I get that things can happen and maybe it works out. But yeah, never the way I'd want to enter something, because it would just make me wonder, like, if this was my in, why wouldn't that also be my out? And especially not with the pickup line that Megan used. Holy moly. We didn't get to it in that rewind, but she went up to him. She was in a car. She's like, here, come outside real quick. Have you ever cheated on your wife? Well, you're going to cheat tonight. Like, lady, lady. Where did you even come up with that line? I mean, I guess it's honest. Bold. But I do think people have trouble breaking it off with each other, you know? And it doesn't always get to a crazy outcome like this, but um, I think it would do well for everybody to understand that even though breakups can be painful in the moment, in the long term, things will be okay. It never needs to be this serious. I think, did she peel her label off? This lady is prepared for TV. She said, let's take the ad sponsorship down. We're not going to have any brands facing. We'll just have a blank water bottle. Or maybe she reuses that water bottle. She cares about the environment. So, you know, over time the label's just falling off.
Fair enough.
What are they doing with the sound? It's like they're going, woo. Yeah, and Brooklyn says, I don't think Higgins had a chance with Karen. She was beyond his league. And I personally think, you know, I think the acquittal for Karen Reed, I mean, she had the OUI, but the acquittal on the serious charges, I think that was obvious. I think that was 100% the right outcome for that case based on how we got there. But it did seem like she was stringing Higgins along. And I can judge her a little bit for that without thinking that she did anything to kill her boyfriend at the time. But I can still judge her for that. I think she was leading Higgins on a little bit. A lot of it, maybe. And it's like Higgins knew. I'll mute this a little bit so we can hear if something significant happens. LaDonna Ames says, so they work together, and one day he says, hey, let's grab lunch at my favorite restaurant. Or did he invite her and she met him there at the restaurant? Was that ever clarified? I think the way he worded it, it would seem like he invited, but they went there separately. And then she started to go there more and more often, to the point where, according to him, this is his testimony, she would be there before him, expecting that he would show up and she'd already be drinking on her own. So let's see. Positive masculinity says, if she'd been at bars for a while, some guy would have used it on her. Hey, Blondie, I see your wedding ring. Ever cheated on your hubby? Because you can tonight. Oh, that's just such a cringy line. Oh my gosh. Good morning, Touche. Good to see you. And Robert, she had a very active beaver. I don't know if this is Karen Reed or Meagan Jackson here. So yeah, and I mean, Nicola Cox says that she believed Johns, this is Karen Reed, had cheated at New Year's. She talked to Higgins soon after. Yes, I think that's where it stems from. But that's, to me, that's one of those moments where, and I mean, I guess if you kind of have the same understanding with your partner, no matter how casual or committed you are of what's going on, whatever floats your boat, right? But the game, it kind of becomes gamesmanship. Maybe you're genuinely hurt and you know somebody cheated on you and you make the decision, I'm going to cheat back and bring it back down to a level playing field. Is that really the right thing to do to repair things? Are you both on the same page to move forward if that's what you both agree to do? Maybe you don't know if someone cheated on you, you just feel like they did. And your feelings are valid. But if you're going to choose to take an action based on something you don't actually know that somebody else did, you're reacting to something that you might not know is fact, right? And now that could open up a whole nother can of worms. So kind of like this moving forward thing, if you both aren't on the same page, I always think it ends up just starting a spiral downwards, whether it's slow or fast. And again, nobody ever wants to get on the same page. And I think that's the root of a lot of the problems of, you know, again, speaking beyond, this is Dontell's attorney walking in now. Speaking beyond the Karen Reed case, right? I just mean in general, you know, once you have these hurt feelings, these insecurities, these trust issues, and this feeling of wanting to get back and get even, but still hold on to the relationship, it just ends up creating more secrecy if you guys aren't communicating and getting it right. So at that point, it's one of those things where maybe the breakup would have just been better. And I don't believe the narrative from the prosecution at all that she intentionally backed up and hit him. I don't think she even accidentally hit him. I think he was drunk and stumbled and hit his head, and the people in the house found him and didn't know what to do with him. It reminds me, I went to college in upstate New York, and every few months in the winter, which was like half the year in Buffalo and Rochester area, you'd hear a sad story of someone had a party somewhere and someone was found on the lawn frozen and they didn't make it. And sometimes somebody would be charged, other times it would just be, they would just decide like, look, this person was walking outside on their own, nobody knew about it, right? But unfortunately it happens. Accidents happen. But maybe butterfly effect. John and Karen were fighting all day. They were texting, and it seemed like they made nice again by like, hey, let's go get a drink together. And maybe if they decided to do things separately, maybe just things would have happened differently. Ultimately, whatever happened to him never would have happened. And I don't really like to play butterfly effect because it's endless possibilities, but. And I also think it's pretty unreasonable for people to think that just because somebody had a fight in a relationship that somebody necessarily murdered somebody. I think that's a big leap to jump without other evidence. And Starfish and Coffee says they should have just charged her with the death by dangerous driving. Yeah, and then they could have focused in on just, hey, was there a vehicle impact or not? And I don't know. I think the defense did a better job with breaking down the technical testimony. But maybe the prosecution would have had a stronger case for that if that was really their key focus instead of this top level murder charge. So, yeah. And for what it's worth, Nicola, Jen wanted them separated, leaving the bar. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that could have meant somebody else was walking up to the front door with John, and if he was gonna stumble, somebody could have been there to catch him or realize it right away. If following what I think is a likely theory, that he just fell while he was drunk and it was icy, and that's how we got to the death, right? All those little teeny differences could have changed the entire outcome of the night. So, and I know there's like a bunch of different theories that people have, and maybe Chloe had something to do with it. Maybe the car bumped him and she didn't know it. And maybe she was angry and backed into him. I feel like all of that could have changed with one little change. Any little change in time could have changed the entire night. So breakups suck, but sometimes the pain of a breakup in the moment is better than loss of life or loss of 20 years or life in prison. So, and with this whole affair thing, the Meagan Jackson side, obviously, I think there's two different conversations here with Meagan Jackson's actions and Christopher Dontell's. Christopher Dontell, it's like, when should you have said enough is enough? Meagan Jackson, it seems like there might have been a little bit more. It seems a bit deranged to me. It seems to me like Meagan Jackson had this plan to move into somebody's house, a family's house, act like they're friends, talk down about what seems to be your common law husband and the father of your children. You have the older kids on their own while you're at this family's house, kind of taking care of adult business, while you're over here griping about your ex-husband. Meanwhile, you're putting yourself in positions to be where the husband goes out to decompress from work over and over and over until you finally ask him to cheat with you one day, or kind of command it. That seems like, I don't know. I can't imagine being, I just can't imagine that. I can't imagine myself in those shoes. So, and then, hey, Cash Money Cats. We dropped your slime. I dropped your slime drink a little bit earlier just because they mentioned amaretto sour. Angelica's in the, from the back row, pretending to work. Well, I hope it's a productive day nonetheless. Andrew said if he fell They would have all seen him on the lawn. It wasn't snowing that hard in the early hours. Yeah, so what I was thinking is he fell more when he got towards like the inside door, maybe the garage door, and then they moved his body to the edge of the road later in the night. So I don't think he fell like at that curb getting out of the car. I think he fell like walking wherever. So this guy is getting so much screen time. How long have we been? Feels like it's been like 5-10 minutes. Look at this guy getting all this screen time. He's got some friends with him here. This is 10 minutes back and it's just the lady. So he's approaching 10 minutes of his screen time, holding it down for the chat here. Wonder if I see one little coffee carafe right behind me. Can you guys, yeah, you guys can see it now over here. One little water coffee carafe. Nice little southern courtroom. On Amy E. Thank you so much, Amy. Amy E dropped 5 gifted memberships. Make sure you guys are saying thank you. Amy E had me rolling yesterday. Do you put those captions on that video, those videos? So Amy E uploaded this video. You guys know she is the archive queen of all things body cam and depositions. There's this video, and while this guy is on something, he seems like he's seeing things. I'm going to link to it in the chat, but this is the one you're going to want to go and watch. This one. Just this classic mistake, which I don't know if I would ever make that mistake, so I don't know if I'd call it classic. In the middle of it, this guy's getting arrested. They have him, they're trying to handcuff him, and I didn't realize he was singing until the words on the screen come up and it says start singing. What? This guy's just singing about his arrest as he's being arrested. But it was an interesting watch. I mean, it seems like the guy was going through something, but there's a start singing video in the chat. It was an interesting watch because it was a father-son auto shop. Like they have like classic cars and they have the mechanic shop, and it starts off with just them saying like, you know, this guy came up, he was saying something to my dad, and then he was just kind of acting a little weird, and then he started like, I think he started threatening to hit the cars. And so the son, who already had an injured foot, tried to like get the guy to stop, and the dad's trying to call the police. And it's a crazy story to watch, but it gets you thinking. You never know when something like that could happen. Like this nobody knew who this guy was. The officers even end up saying like, hey, we're not actually already familiar with this individual. This is the first time we've met this individual. And he just sees a garage door that's open at the shop and walks in and starts, hitting one of the cars and then fighting with the father and son that own the shop. Just crazy. Oh, he's got a trial. This is going to be like a 2-hour trial, I would guess, a 1-day trial. So that would be interesting. If you're going to upload that, let me know, because I'm totally going to watch it. Because it's just, you might know when you've got to like watch out for something you have a clue about. But this is just kind of like a sucker punch. You don't expect it. Breaking it down with B. Good to see you. Good morning. Brooklyn is ready. Brooklyn is on the edge of the seat. Let's see. Oh, you do? Okay, so yeah, it is Amy that puts the text up there. I was laughing so hard at the start singing because it just seemed like mumbling until I realized it. It's like, what? And then STS with another 5. Let's get this banner going. Let's get this banner going. This is a long banner today because I wanted to make sure we had the context of the trial. We want to thank our sponsors here. We have 15 gifted memberships. I want this camera person to give us the tour of the entire. They're just slow panning. They're giving us the 360 tour. What are they doing? We could have been a decent way. It might be a transport thing, or maybe they're waiting for someone that's giving a victim impact statement. They just want to. They want to see if it's on. They want to see which lights are blinking. Oh, okay. It's in the description of that video. Sweet. I'm pretty bad at looking at descriptions unless something in the video cues me to do it. Alrighty. Ooh, okay. So let's. The guy's name is Brian, the auto mechanic shop owner. We're gonna call him the stranger with no shirt. Aggravated battery on a person 65 or older, criminal mischief in 1,000 or more because of hitting the cars, and resisting an officer with violence. At the first appearance on October 26th, the court found probable cause, appointed a public defender, and set bond totaling $24,000 across the charges. A no contact order was issued, and the defendant later posted bond and was released from custody. Then on November 19th, the state reduced and dropped some charges. So no action taken on the aggravated battery and criminal mischief. He pleaded not guilty, waived arraignment. They've got a bunch of hearings. And let's see. They want the CAD report. Defense wants the CAD report. And July 23rd. There we go. There we go. Interesting. So that means they kept the probably this charge, or they just did they drop this too? So battery on a person 65 years or older. It seems like they only dropped the aggravated battery, but if they ended up dropping this battery too, then they're just charging resisting officer. Hopefully they take care of, make sure that guy does not go back to that establishment. And I have this up, you guys. We can continue watching testimony. And we could flip back over. So let me go back to where we were with the testimony. I'll have the volume and we'll graduate it back up. We'll crescendo.
So then on one of these occasions at Bricks, it was at night. She paid her bill and she told me that she had to talk to me outside privately. So I went outside with her and she told me to get in the van, her work van. So I got in the passenger seat thinking she was going to ask me a question about work or something like that. And she turned the van on and threw it in reverse. I said, "Where are we going?" She said, "We can't talk right here." It was right by the entrance and there were people around. So in the back parking lot of Bricks, it's kind of an incline.
Red flag.
And it goes up to a service road, like a dead end service road. And she pulled into the service road.
Lady.
And parked. And I said, "This looks suspicious. Why are we here?" She said, "Have you ever cheated on your wife?"
Brooklyn, the Law and Crime feed was live. We're doing a rewind until it starts up. This testimony's old. Her lied. I guess it works.
I said, "No." She said, "Well, you're about to."
Girl, look at her eyes.
And she climbed over the console on top of me and started to kiss me. And on that occasion, I gently pushed her off of me and said, "I'm not doing this."
Look at her.
For the next several days, she kind of made fun of me about it and told me that I was the only guy she's ever met that would have turned down that opportunity. And eventually I didn't push her off of me. I gave in, and that's when it all started. And it became a regular event.
Do you know about when the affair started?
It would have been very late 2019, very early 2020.
Would you say that the two of you were very sexually active with each other? Did you have sex a lot?
I don't know. Depends on what your definition of a lot is. But yeah, fairly regularly. Yeah.
During your time together with the defendant, before the affair started and all the way until you stopped having contact with her, did you ever meet Greg Rice?
No.
Did the defendant ever talk to you about her relationship with Greg Rice?
Yes.
How did she describe her relationship with Greg Rice?
She described it as abusive. Basically, that he was a drug abusing woman beater, and that was why she left him.
During your time with her, did you ever see any physical evidence of any abuse that she suffered?
No.
Did you, other than what the defendant said to you, did you have any other reason to believe that Greg Rice had anything to do with illegal drugs?
No.
At some point, did the defendant move into your neighborhood?
Yes.
That's a leading question. I think I'm just overruled. Go ahead.
Do you know when that was?
She moved into the neighborhood around Christmas time of 2019. I remember that because she had a Christmas tree in her house before she had anything else.
Okay. Once she moved into the neighborhood, did you and your family begin to spend time with her and her children?
Yes.
Okay, let me actually back up. Who moved into her house? Excuse me.
In River's Edge.
Yes.
She had left Greg, and she moved into the new house with her 4 children.
Approximately how far away was the house that she moved into from your house?
Right down the street, within a 2-minute walk, roughly.
I've got to pause. So, Mr. Big Play Bray, in the past, this is past Mr. Big Play Bray from when we watched this live, said this cross is going to be crazy. I agreed at this moment in time. I was ready. I'm like, oh, they're going to have so many questions for this guy. Oh my gosh, it was such a disappointment.
And I think I might have just asked this, but did your family start spending time with each other?
All the time.
Did you ever have an opportunity to speak to the children about their father, Greg Rice?
Yeah, I mean,
I did what read my question. I said, here's a, yeah, you can't get into what he said, and not a lot of that question.
Okay.
I mean, you can't say what Greg Rice said.
I didn't ask what Greg Rice said. I was asking about the children, but I can ask it this way. In your time with the victim's children, did you see anything that would indicate that the children were afraid of him?
just the opposite.
Okay.
They spoke very high. They spoke of him the way I would want my children to speak of me.
I'm getting on, he's talking about what other people said, that's a hearsay. Hearsay, what children said hearsay.
Well, what if, so I'm expecting fireworks on Cross or whatever, but what if the dad on the defense team is like losing it over here about these objections? Because there's a whole other like side story that could start here. Did not.
At some point, did Erica, your wife, find out that you and the defendant were having an affair?
Yes.
And let me ask the obvious question first. Before she found out, did you take steps to hide the affair from her?
Yes.
Did that include lying to her?
Yes.
So at some point, Erica found out about the affair. Do you know how she found out?
I believe it was when she received anonymous text messages.
Were you together with her when she got those text messages?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
Did she?
You know, that's not a affirmative answer. He said it was pretty certain, okay, but question is,
I can
what
clarify.
I wanted to do, so I said, just have it recreated, or check on, see if he is testifying, what he knows, keep testifying, don't shoot. Go ahead.
Okay. Forgot where I was now. Did she show you any of those? Did she confront you about those text messages?
Yes, she did.
What was your response to her about the text? Do you remember what any of them said?
It was something to the effect of, your husband has impregnated someone. Just thought you might want to know about it.
What did you say when she confronted you with those text messages?
That I had no idea who would have sent that. That wasn't true.
So you lied to her because you were trying to cover up your affair?
Yeah.
At that time, did you have any idea who sent those messages?
No.
Did you and or your wife ever, well, I'll stick with you, so it's personal knowledge. Did you ever speak with the defendant about those texts?
Yes.
Did the defendant ever tell you who was sending the text or who she thought was sending the text?
She pretty much immediately said it was Greg Rice.
And I apologize if I've asked you this before. Did you ever meet Greg?
No, as far as, I never shook his hand. We never spoke. I saw him, he would drive through the neighborhood to pick up the kids. I would wave at him, just a friendly wave. That was the extent of my interaction with him.
After those initial texts, did you and your wife remain married?
I'm sorry?
After Erica received those initial texts, that's a hard word, did you guys remain married?
Yes.
Did it cause additional strain on your marriage?
Yes.
For some indulgence,
Her footsteps. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, guys, remember, his sentencing is withheld until after he testifies.
Your Honor, I'm going to approach the court's permission with State's Exhibit 153. Did you and the defendant have more than one conversation about who might be kind of trying to leak word of the affair?
Yeah, it was an ongoing conversation over the course of several days.
And were they in-person conversations, text conversations, or both?
Both.
If you could just look at Exhibit 153, it's not admitted yet, so don't read it out loud or anything.
Okay.
But is that a text conversation that you had with the defendant?
It appears to be, yes. It's been 5 years, so I don't remember exactly,
Right.
but
Is that your phone number?
it is my phone number, yes.
And is that her phone number?
Yes.
Did anyone else ever text from your phone?
Not to my knowledge,
To your knowledge, did anyone ever text from the defendant's phone? Text you from the defendant's phone?
other than her, no.
Next.
Your Honor, I don't think you can know who texted her phone, so I'm going to strike that in.
He said not to my knowledge.
I'll roll out loud.
Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Before your wife got those anonymous text messages, had you and the defendant and one of her daughters and a friend gone to Florida together?
Yes.
Okay, just tell us a little bit about that.
So the conversation began with, I was going to go to Florida to do things, the Jacksonville area, to look at some convenience stores. There was a contract that I got with my maintenance company every year to pressure wash lots of convenience stores up and down the East Coast. And the client that we worked for had numerous stores in Florida that I had never had the chance to bid. And I had been wanting to go there for a long time to drop a business card to some of the franchisees at the stores and try to get my foot in the door to get the Florida region of the contract. There's also a really good pizza place in St. Augustine that I like to go to. And I discussed all this with the defendant.
So how is it that you and the defendant and these two other people went together?
Yeah, she said, well, I'll pay for the whole trip. And she booked the trip and we went together and I didn't resist.
Did you tell Erica that you were going with the defendant and the defendant's daughter and her friend?
No, she knew I was going to Florida, but not with them.
It's finished. So I'm approaching the State's Exhibit 98.
He's looking at that defense
I'm
table.
just going to direct your attention to, I think it's
He got some
sixth
ratings.
line. Is that an accurate list of the people who went to Florida on that trip?
Yes.
To your knowledge, did anyone else know who all went on that trip?
No, not to my knowledge.
While you were, and how close in time was that trip to when Greg was killed?
I don't remember the exact dates of the trip. I know Greg was killed on the night of the 2nd. It would have been within a week to 2 weeks, I believe.
During that trip, did the defendant tell you anything about any?
We're live, guys. We're live, so let's get back over to law and crime. Switch my window. Oh, so there's no sound on yet in the court. Banner. There's his wife. There's Miss Dontell. I think her first name's Erica. No, they're panning away. All right, we're back on the wall. They're probably starting soon, though. So we'll keep it here. Yeah, good to see you, by the way, Cutthroat Radio. Yeah, this case is a little crazy. A little crazy. Yeah, tape is at the recall here. So the defense team was insane when one of the attorneys spoke to the jury directly during his cross. This is the younger brother, because the defense team was a father and 2 sons. And the younger brother was like cross-examining the jury, it felt like. David says, I knew then that Meagan was even more cooked than she already was. And yeah, so Erica Dontell, when she testified, she, still said she hadn't divorced, didn't know if divorce was a plan. She hasn't even been able to speak to her husband in private. So, because he's been in custody and, monitor the calls and everything. So, I wonder what they're working out. I wonder if Erica will give a statement. I mean, I feel like that kind of sucks, right? To be in that position. But remember when Erica was walking out after she testified, she went to Savannah, the daughter, and exchanged what looked like kind words and said sorry or mouthed like I'm sorry, and they like touched hands maybe. So, I always think it's nice that, yeah, maybe something crazy happened. And yeah, it happens to involve my husband and your mom, but we don't need to be crazy to each other because something crazy happened involving us. And yes, so this is the guy that hooked up with Meagan. This is the coroner that had an affair with Meagan Jackson, who was a body transporter. And Meagan Jackson was living with him and his family. She moved in as a friend. She was presenting as a friend to Erica Dontell and the kids and everything like that. Just crazy. And positive masculinity, so they did introduce some texts alluding to this. They didn't really get too far into it, but positive masculinity says, exes can say some messed up things to new partners, like, oh, I want to kill that person, I unalive them, whatever. Could that be considered conspired? And they did introduce text messages where Meagan was saying things like this, and Christopher Dontell was like, haha, I would be down to at this point. And it was about slashing tires or popping tires. And he was kind of like, haha, I would at this point, I would. And it's up to the jury to weigh that. Up to the jury to weigh that. And again, the jury only had that opportunity for Meagan. So no, you didn't miss it. They it looks like most parties are probably in the courtroom because we have Dontell and his attorney. I don't think I saw the Rice children. So Megan's kids, Gregory Rice's kids, but they could be on a different side of the courtroom and we just didn't see it. But no, you didn't miss it. And I think you'd be surprised, Angel from Heaven. I mean, people have a different way of speaking. Some people are very hyperbolic and speak with imagery and would never do the things that they're saying. But you think of the phrase like, oh, I could wring your neck. You know, that's something that I feel like used to be said more often when someone's causing trouble and driving you nuts, driving you crazy. That doesn't mean you're going to actually go and wring somebody's neck. So yep, Gregory Rice is the one who was killed. And then so the issue is, and if we take Christopher Dontell at his word, he says he didn't know Meagan Jackson was bringing him along for the ride when she just gets out and shoots Gregory Rice as he's walking down the street. But he did work with her to get rid of the body after the fact. So I don't know what the state is requesting, Brooklyn, but you know, I know the maximum is 15 and 5, so 20. And again, he has maintained that, you know, part of the reason, you know, he went along with Meagan in that period of time was he was scared for, you know, his own well-being in the moment and then also the well-being of his family for the longer term until he finally came clean. If the state finds that to be credible, then I would expect that they'd offer, you know, not the max. If they don't believe that, I expect that they'll offer the max. Yeah, phrases like that, I could punch you in the throat. Like people say things like that and they're not actually going to go punch somebody in the throat. And then again though, if you see somebody saying that stuff, you never know, I guess. So always be cautious. We've got some paper rattling.
All right.
Here we go, chat.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all can be seated.
Thanks, Touche. I'm going to keep this
Your
up.
Honor,
I agree with you. I'll read in a second.
Received.
Okay, are these?
One is from Zach Rice, who was Greg Rice's son, and the other is from Kevin Rice, one of Greg Rice's brothers. And then Savannah Rice is present and will wish to address the court, but I'll call the case first with Your Honor's permission.
Please.
Your Honor, this is State of South Carolina, County of Horne versus Christopher Dontell. Your Honor, Mr. Dontell pleaded what I call straight up to the court as we were prepared to begin his trial to accessory after the fact under True Bill 2024 GS 2603534 and criminal conspiracy to commit murder 2021 GS 2601198. My use of the term straight up means that he did so with absolutely no discussions and no agreements with the state. As I said, the state was poised to proceed with trial when the defendant stood up and expressed his desire to plead guilty. He did testify in the trial of his co-defendant, Meagan Jackson, last month.
All right. Let's go ahead and swear the defendant, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. All right, good morning, Ms. Jackson. How are you?
Good morning, Your Honor. Doing well, thank you.
I'm doing well. Does the state wish to go first, or would the defense like to be heard first?
Your Honor, I think that Obviously, we would prefer to hear, we were just handed a copy of the 2 letters that you received as well, and I think they said Miss Savannah Rice would like to.
Yes.
That we're fine with
Let's go ahead and
that.
hear from the state and the victim's family. Okay.
We're going to get some victim impact statements from the family. It seems like Rice's family, not maybe Erica's speaking for Dontell.
Okay, so just state your name. Say your name so the court reporter does it.
Savannah Rice.
Good morning, Ms. Rice.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I know you're nervous. I just want you to act like you're just talking to me, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor, for hearing my statement. I've had a lot of time to think about what happened, and that doesn't change any way that I feel about the sentencing of Chris Dontell. Chris may have had his family to worry about, but he also had my family to worry about the day he chose to continue being an accomplice. He held me as I cried and begged for my dad to come back. He told me it would be okay and that we would find my dad. He didn't tell me that we would find him dead. He could have told the cops what happened. He could have made the choice to do the right thing. I've ran dozens of scenarios through my mind. He could have went to the cops and ended this years ago, but he didn't. I will never forgive him for that because my siblings and I have lost our parents and our wives. We will never be able to live a normal life, and even more so, this has made it worse. Chris deserves maximum sentence possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Ms. Rice, I do want to tell you, I understand how hard this has been on you and your family. While I can't fathom the pain that you've suffered as a result of this, I just want to commend you for your strength, for being here, for being there for Ms. Jackson's trial. I know that takes a lot of strength, and I just want to thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Does the state have anything else to present?
No, Your Honor.
All right, if you just bear with me just for a moment, let me take a look at these 2 letters.
So we're not going to hear the contents of the 2 letters from the sons. Okay, we'll get caught up. It seems like he said, I wish she had got that letter, and he said it again. And it seems like she's confirming that she gave the letter. So maybe he wrote a letter to Savannah, and now he's pissed that she said all that. That's not really a good look, and you're hot micing that, bro.
All right, thank you. Record will reflect that I have had a chance to read over 2 statements written by Mr. Zachary Rice and Mr. Kenneth Rice.
And Your Honor, I think you're probably used to me arguing vociferously at sentencing, but typically when one co-defendant testifies against another co-defendant, the state's position is that it's in Your Honor's discretion as to any sentencing.
I understand. Okay, Ms. Zimmercheck. I will say, Ms. Zimmercheck, you can go ahead, Stan. I was just going to tell you, thank you for emailing me the letters. I was able to take a look at each one of them in chambers and read through them. And I certainly appreciate that, being able to have the time to do that. But I'll go ahead and let you begin your presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor, and may it please the court. And in an interest of time, I rarely have I come across a sentencing where I've had so much outreach of people wanting to show their support, which is why I sent that that packet to Your Honor and the state so that you would have time and that we wouldn't have to waste time reading through all the letters. What I think, Your Honor, was interesting about those letters, not just the sheer volume, but just the diversity from which they came. We're talking about church people, professionals within the community, and then just normal, everyday people that you work with and servers. And so I wanted to point that out. I emailed these as well, Your Honor, but I would like to talk about them, the pictures that I sent as well. And Your Honor, the first picture was a picture of Chris and Meagan right as she was, I'm sorry, I've got Meagan on the brain, of Chris and Erica right while she was pregnant with their son. And Your Honor, what was telling about this picture and all of the times I've spent with the Dontells and getting to know them and getting to know their family is that, Your Honor, you can see in his eyes in that first picture, it's very, his eyes are a little bit clear, a lot different. That was right before this involvement with Miss Jackson occurred. Your Honor, all of the pictures that I have sent to you included what is really the essence of Chris, and that is being a father to his children. And the picture that after the birth of their children was another picture of Erica and Chris. And Your Honor, the difference between what you can see in Chris's eyes before he got involved with Meagan Jackson and after, I think is telling. Your Honor, clearly he has made some mistakes, and in the 42 years that he has been on this earth, I can assure you he has, this is the biggest of the mistakes. And Your Honor, he, just so I don't forget, 1,588 days are the total amount that he has been incarcerated.
1 second on that. Does the state have any objection to that number? Is that what y'all believe is the number?
Your Honor, I have not had a chance to calculate it. I typically believe that the Department of Corrections will verify anything.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And I told them ahead of time because there was a period that he was out, and so we had to go back and calculate those days. Your Honor, he, as you obviously am aware, he was arrested in November 19th of 2020, and that's how long this case has been going on. When I read those letters and listening to Miss Savannah Rice, Your Honor, the underlying theme, of course, besides the tragic loss of Mr. Greg Rice, was the frustration of not knowing. And in fact, when Mr. Dontell did accept his responsibility for his part in this, we received a separate email from the family just thanking us for being able to close that door and move forward. And the frustration that I get from the family, and I completely understand in that length of time, goes back to Mr. Dontell being afraid, and rightfully so, of Meagan Jackson, but not only for himself, for his family as well. Your Honor, I think it goes without saying, obviously, he had no criminal record prior to this, had never been involved in any problems before. And as you, I know that your law clerk was thorough and did sit through his testimony to hear what exactly he did. And even when they tried to impeach him with a little bit of the change from the plea transcript, it was because, Your Honor, after the plea, he was able to sit down and finally, after being told his family would be given protection, he was finally be able to fill in those extra things that he needed to fill in to really bring this together. And Your Honor, obviously being familiar with the case and the trial, I won't belabor the point, and you certainly read it in the letters, but the impact that Meagan had on their lives, as in coming in, really connecting herself to the family and making it so intertwined with her life, Your Honor, is a reason that fear was legitimate. I can tell you that I am asking for probation, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that I do when I come to a sentencing is, especially in the different counties, I try to look at other disparages, other sentences that have been laid down in situations such as this. Your Honor, most recently I came across the case of Steve Morgan, who had just done 33 months of pretrial as opposed to the 4 years, 4 months and 1 week that Mr. Dontell has been doing. But he was sentenced to a time served with no probation in a case that was a murder case. He was the co-defendant. The body was dumped in the field, testified against the co-defendant. It was state v. land in August of 22. That person received a time served with no probation. Your Honor, we're asking that the court consider a probationary sentence based on a lot of the arguments that we have been making this whole time, but also when you go back and you look at the trial, the substance of getting the conviction of the person that took the gun, took that 22 and shot it in the locations of Mr. Rice's body that she shot them, it was clear that Meagan Jackson had done this, Your Honor, and Mr. Dontell has been in so deep. Your Honor, he has always been employed. He came here from Missouri with his family. He's always, Maryland. And he's always had a job. He's always tried to make the right decisions. Like I said, coming into a situation like this, Your Honor, has really changed not only his perspective, but the choices that he was making. While in prison, or while in jail, he was diagnosed with being, with having a depressive disorder, Your Honor. But one of the things that was very frustrating in the multiple pretrial bond hearings and things that we had is that people kept saying that the state kept insinuating that he was suicidal. I've gone through all of Mr. Dontell's records. He has been diagnosed with a major depressive disorder, which I think is how we another reason we ended up making he made these terrible, terrible decisions. But Your Honor, there was never a history of any suicidal ideations. Another frustrating fact that Mr. Dontell kept encountering when he was attempting to get out on bond, like his co-defendant was, even though he violated that when they were first out together, the fact that she continued to remain out was incredibly frustrating to him. And every time we would come to a bond hearing, Your Honor, there would be issues such as the state received notice that he was trying to put a hit out on somebody. Your Honor, the state thoroughly investigated all of that. None of that came to fruition. I firmly believe, Your Honor, that the state was being provided information by his co-defendant to specifically keep him in there. She took that opportunity to drive by Mr. Dontell's house with his wife and kids to continue that fear and those threats.
So that's some new
him,
context.
And that's exactly how he took them. But Your Honor, he has spent all of that time trying to work on himself. He has a strong support system, Your Honor, and I believe that Mr. Dontell himself has written and it's probably just easier for him to read because he's nervous. So I know he wants to address the court, but also his wife would like to address the court. Obviously, we kept that number of persons down to a minimum, but we would ask that the court, then that's why we submitted all those letters, but we would ask that the court, do you hear from Erica Dontell at this time?
Your Honor, when Your Honor believes it's appropriate, I do need to correct a mischaracterization.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's his wife. Oh,
Good morning, Ms. Dontell.
Good morning.
If you just state your name just for the record.
Erica Dontell.
All right, thank you. Happy to hear from you.
Thank you.
I agree, Peter.
My name is Erica Dontell. I'm Christopher Dontell's wife. On June 12th, 2025, Chris and I spent our 10th wedding anniversary testifying against his co-defendant, Meagan Jackson. For nearly 5 years, I've made the choice each and every day to stay married to Chris. Despite the murder charge, affair, selling, though it felt more like losing my dream home, severe depression and anxiety, financial hardship, and all while solo parenting and homeschooling our 2 kids in hopes of getting them the most normal life possible, I've stayed, and I would like you to understand why. The Chris that has been presented to you in this courtroom over the last few years is not the man I chose to marry and build a life with. While Chris and I have been married for 10 years, we've been together for nearly 15, just about half of my life. While Chris and I, The totality of the horrible and unimaginable events that have gotten us here today only took a matter of months. Chris was not simply caught up in a workplace affair, but instead, Meagan Jackson infiltrated all areas of our lives and became the literal antichrist to our family. Within 8 short months, Meagan Jackson moved into our neighborhood and set her plan in motion with 2 goals in mind: end Chris and mine's marriage and rid herself of Greg Rice, only one of which she succeeded at. From day one of knowing Meagan, she had perfectly curated a narrative to gain compassion from both Chris and myself. At the time, it was our understanding that Greg Rice was an abusive, drug-addicted pervert, and Meagan sold that story to us every chance she got. Chris nor I had never met Greg, and from her stories, we felt we never wanted to. I believe everything she told us was a tactical move to allow her plan to move forward without a hitch. Meagan sold both Chris and I on the idea that we were all friends, and she was willing to and ready to solve all of our problems. She used the economic crash caused by COVID to shower us with expensive gifts, food, and promises of my dream come true, a summer camp for kids here in the county. Life was going to be perfect, and she was going to be to thank for it, until it wasn't. Through her manipulation and a full stock of pricey alcohol, Meagan used some challenges in our marriage that I had confided in her to present Chris with an escape from reality of the stresses of home and work. I'm not making excuses for Chris's behavior, but I feel the backstory is important to understand how we got here. Chris made choices that he's expressed to me that he deeply regrets and has been paying for ever since. I will not overlook his role in the damage his decisions have caused, but it's with every fiber of my being that I say, if COVID shutdowns had never happened, Chris would not be involved in this case at all. I do, however, believe Meagan still would have found a way to do what she did to Greg. In January 2011, Chris and I had reconnected when we lived in Maryland, and we clicked instantly. He was hardworking, shared my love of baseball, and had the same overall goals and aspirations for life as I did, including our future plans of moving to Myrtle Beach. We often spent our time on the ball field playing trivia or sitting at the swing at the North Myrtle Beach Airport watching banner planes take off and land. Until November 2021, Chris and I had never been apart for more than a week and a half when he had to go away for training in 2015. We spent just about every single day for 10 years together. I know who Chris is. Chris is kind, helpful, caring, passionate, and enjoys pizza and karaoke, and though his songs may be questionable, then not always family friendly, but above all, Chris loves our kids more than life itself, and would give anything to be reunited with them. Over the years, I've been on many death calls with Chris, one of which was one of our first dates. Chris has always had such a gift for making people's worst moments a little easier. We often got letters or ran into family members from death calls that he worked, and every single one would go on about how compassionate and caring he was and about the difference he made in their lives at that time. Based on what I witnessed firsthand for 10 years, it's my belief that Chris felt he had no choice but to be involved how he was in this case. Meagan threatened him, and she was dangerous enough that Chris's previous attorney advised him to continue communication with Meagan out of fear of what she might do if she found out he was turning.
That's a new detail.
This was confirmed by the said attorney over dinner with me, and we later sought new counsel. I find myself wishing every day that this was one big nightmare, but unfortunately it's reality. Chris is not the only one that has been punished for over the last 4 years. We've lost family members that never got a last hug or a goodbye from Chris. We've welcomed new family members by marriage and birth into the family that have never met him, and I underwent the entire process of selling our old home and buying a new one because I no longer felt safe with the co-defendant living street away. But most importantly, our kids have suffered. Very quickly, they lost close friends they had in Meagan's kids, their dad, their home, their neighborhood friends, and the normalcy we had prior to October of 2020. Chris is an amazing father, despite the poor choices he made over the few months when he was under the control of Meagan. Our children were 5 and 2 when Chris's bond was revoked. Chris missed potty training our son, the loss of first teeth for both of our kids, daddy and daughter dances, and simply just everyday moments that others take for granted. My heart breaks for the Rice. breaks for the Rice kids who have missed out and will continue to miss those things with their own dad. I would give anything to go back in time knowing what I know now, but unfortunately that can't happen. We were all under Meagan's spell of her false narrative and promises. I will continue to pray for the Rice kids every day and love them and hope they are forever surrounded by the love that they always deserved but did not receive from their own mom. During his incarceration, Chris has attended church services, Christian counseling sessions, which we will continue together when we are able to. And he's helped to keep things as normal as possible for our kids by playing games like rock, paper, scissors and practicing their math facts and spelling words, and even attending sporting events through the video visits. I respectfully ask you to please consider Chris as the man he is as a whole and not just the actions within such a small period of time when he felt there was no way out. We have lost so much already, and it is my hope that you would consider the time Chris and our entire family have already served and allow him to come home to our family.
Thank you, Ms. Dontell. All right, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I believe the defendant would like to address the law personally.
Here we go.
And he wrote it, Your Honor, just because he wanted to keep his thoughts straight.
I thought about the Rice family, hurt for them, and wished I could speak with them every day for going on 5 years. I'm so sorry that they had to learn the details of Greg's death in such a public way at Meagan's trial, and that I was the bearer of some of those details. Greg Rice's and Meagan Jackson's 4 kids have become an extension of my family. And knowing how badly, I'm sorry. Knowing how badly they were hurt and that I played a role in causing any pain at all to them is something I'm going to struggle with for the rest of my life. To simply keep saying I'm sorry just doesn't feel right. And I don't know that I can effectively articulate the depth of the combination of love, pain, regret, and compassion I feel for those kids and for everyone who loved Greg. I'm sorry for having any involvement with Meagan. Virtually everything about her is the exact opposite of everything I've ever been and stood for. As embarrassing as it is to admit, I chose to overlook everything bad about her because she was spending thousands of dollars a month on my family, and because she had convinced me that she was basically going to make all mine and my family's dreams come true. In retrospect, it's clear that my involvement with her was founded on deception and selfishness. This led to a snowball of poor decisions on my part, infidelity, and to Meagan having a grip on every aspect of my life. If not for these poor decisions on my part, I know that I would not have been with her on the night of October 2nd, would not have been in the position to be an accessory after the fact, and would not have had any part in causing any suffering to anyone. I heard Meagan say things like, I'm going to kill Greg, and I'm going to kill my kids. More than once, she told me she was going to kill me. She said these kinds of things nonchalantly, and I never took them as a serious threat. I chose to overlook these things and all the other red flags that were waving in my face because of the attributes I thought were good about her, which I now see were only those which served me in some way. I realized that my involvement with Meagan, and thereby this case, has caused some variation of hardship to many, including my business partners, employees, colleagues, neighbors, my friends, my family, and especially the loved ones of Greg Rice. During the years I spent in jail, I have, with the help of counselors, taken accountability and begun the process of repairing the damage. As for the Rice family, I just want them to know that if there's anything I can do to help them gain closure, I'll do whatever I can do for them. whether that's now or years from now. My heart will always be with them.
Your Honor, just briefly in closing, I just wanted to address a few more things. One, the letters, and I know that they're not understanding of the law, but with the Rice letters that I just reviewed, and they said that he was permitted to plead to a lesser charge, Your Honor. Mr. Dontell certainly did plead to what he was guilty of. That's something that we had actually been offering to plead to for a while. The negotiations, we couldn't come to an agreement on the negotiations at the time, Your Honor, but we were negotiating with them prior to anybody going to trial. Your Honor, as we presented this case this morning for Mr. Dontell, who accepted the responsibility and the accountability of accessory after the fact, which he was clearly guilty of, and making poor choices. It's important to present those circumstances that led to his involvement and the meaningful steps that he's taken since then to right his wrongs. And that's what I think that we've been trying to do today, is to give you a snapshot of who Chris was, what he was, when he was finally able to get that sense of protection for his family and come clean. At the time of the offense, he was clearly deeply influenced and manipulated by Meagan Jackson, who he trusted, and she took advantage of his loyalty, his immaturity, his use of alcohol to make poor choices. Your Honor, he did not stand up when he should have for all of the children involved, and he knows that. And this weakness has made him live with this regrettable decision. Your Honor, every time I look at this case, I think of all of the things that could have been done if he were a criminal master, even if he wasn't a criminal mastermind, Your Honor, the things that could have been done that would have made this case, for example, using the crematorium, that would have made this case almost impossible to solve. But he was finally able, with risk to his family's safety, his continued reputation, and he finally, in December of this past year, cooperated fully with law enforcement and the prosecution. His testimony was crucial in ensuring that justice was served, especially against Meagan, who was primarily responsible. And the cooperation came at a personal cost. He is continuing to accept the accountability and help correct the wrongs he once enabled. He has shown sincere remorse, in turning his life around. He's engaged in counseling, as you've heard. One of the things that, if you recall, a group of pretrial motions about 1.5 years ago, I was demanding to have all of his jail costs, because oftentimes people say things when they don't think the jails are listening. Your Honor, myself and my entire staff spent, I think, 2 weeks listening to almost 4 years worth of jail phone calls. And I can tell you that
Paging Viverito.
% of those were him talking with his children and still being a father. And I know that is a luxury that he has that the Rices don't have. And he knows that too. And he is still living with that, and he is still combating with that. And he knows that he can't make that right, can't change it, but he can try to make it right from here on out, in his desire to accept that accountability. Your Honor, we understand that this offense was serious, but I think it's important for the court to understand that he was not an architect of this crime. He was someone who made several misguided choices in a terrible situation. He's demonstrated growth, cooperation, a willingness to accept responsibility, and qualities that suggest rehabilitation that he's already started. Your Honor, we are certainly not we are not just the worst thing we've ever done in life, but we are asking the court to consider a serious sentence over his head that would be suspended to an intensive 5-year period of probation, in a way, because if he violated that probation, then he would have to go back and do all of that time based on the new law, if he were to receive that. So we ask the court to take all of the letters of support, all of what we presented into consideration when making the determination. Justice can be served along with mercy. Thank you.
Your Honor, Ms. Zimmercheck mentioned a case in her argument, Stephen Morgan, where the defendant was given time served. That actually happens to have been my case, and the two cases are diametrically opposed to each other. Mr. Morgan was not present during the murder, did not help dispose of the victim's body in that case, came forward immediately when questioned by police, and cooperated throughout the entire way. He also pleaded guilty only to accessory after the fact and did not, as Dontell has done, plead guilty to criminal conspiracy to commit murder. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that that is not an appropriate comparison for the case in front of Your Honor.
Ms. Walker,
Push for higher.
let me ask you this. It got brought up in the defense's presentation about bond. Am I correct that he was given a bond at one point but violated it?
Yes, Your Honor. Both defendants were given
Oop.
bonds. They both violated it by having continued contact with each other. They were both violated, and then Ms. Jackson was released, violated again. It was sort of a revolving door. She was given an opportunity for home detention again, but continued to violate it. I believe there was one other bond hearing for Mr. Dontell, and that was denied. But he has been in since that first violation.
And I'm also correct that there were initially talked to law enforcement, and then there was a proffer.
Yes, Your Honor, there was a proffer, and Mr. Dontell violated the terms of that proffer, so that proffer never went forward.
Ms. Zimmercheck, anything else from this case?
Nothing further. Well, just a very brief follow-up, Your Honor. Yes, he had 3 detention hearings after that. They were all denied. Just the end result was the same. And Your Honor, he did the proffer and the testimony was all done prior to my involvement in the case, Your Honor. Obviously, when we were able to secure that protection for his family with the bond conditions and zones against
Hey,
his
Kurt.
family and
How are
her
ya?
and the children, Your Honor, he did sit down and I think fully cooperate with them and testified to those exact same details at the trial.
All right,
Thank you.
What do you think, chat? You think the judge is gonna lowball it, highball it, middle ground it? I think it's telling the judge is looking at the violation of bond conditions and about that proffer. So I don't think he's going to give probation as requested by the defense.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a lot of middle grounds here.
Mr. Dontell, your attorney has done a good presentation, and quite frankly, I believe has done a remarkable job to get you where you are today. She's correct that my law clerk did go in and review your testimony in Meagan Jackson's trial, but I also went back and reviewed your testimony as well. Your testimony did differ in what you admitted to when you pled guilty to the charges you're here for today. My concern is simply this. I understand that you're remorseful. You're here today to take ownership over what you've done. However, by my math, it took about 1,500 days for that to happen. You said in your testimony in Miss Jackson's trial that you were scared of Miss Jackson. I don't know what you were scared of once she got incarcerated, though. She absolutely couldn't hurt your family when she was incarcerated. And you still decided that you wanted to withhold the truth. And then you testified or proffered again with the state and again gave them different information. The truth of the matter in this, according to your own testimony, is that you were present when Mr. Greg Rice was gunned down and that you helped dispose of that body. You, a person who disposes of bodies as your job. And yet it took you 1,500 days before you gave this family some solace in knowing what happened to their dad. I saw in your testimony where you hoped that your testimony would give you a lesser sentence. And I'll tell you that based on your testimony, the fact that you pled to an accessory and a co-conspirator is your lesser sentence. You very easily could be right where Miss Jackson is doing life in prison. I will give you the credit for the time that you have served. You're entitled to that by statute. But as to the accessory after the fact,
Going full,
the sentence
going
of this
full.
court should be committed to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 15 years. And as for the conspiracy, it's a sentence of this court that you be sentenced to the maximum again of 5 years, and those are to run consecutive.
So there's the 20, but he's going to get the credit for the 15
Dontell, I
and
understand that
change.
you're here and want to give the closure to the Rice family, and I hope that this does that. And I hope that ultimately, when you get out, that you will remember what you've done to your own family and what you've done to the Rice family. But that's the sentence of this court. Thank you.
It's rough. I mean, you've got the wife that I'm sure is upset.
Ms. Walker, do you have anything else?
No, just your regular trial roster.
All right, thank you. We'll be at ease.
Okay, so I
If
think
that
these,
trial resolves or ends and you or Judge knows.
he got the full 20 and it's consecutive, but they're going to give him credit for time served. And the defense calculated that he's already served 1,588 days. They're going to get the count from the Department of Corrections to, you know, make sure. They always joke that lawyers aren't good at math and timetables for sentencing. They were in and out. Dontell had bond at one point and then it was revoked. So they have to make sure they calculated that correctly and make sure that count is right. But he will get credit for that. So, I mean, that's approximately like 4.5-ish years. So he's got the 20-year sentence, but he's going to get credit for that time. So yeah, he's going to be up there in age at this point. And Positive Masculinity says he should have gone to trial. Now, let me say, I would be interested in seeing how a jury weighed what he did. And South Carolina has a liability statute that's basically the hand of one is the hand of all. So a jury could have found that even though he might not have been the one that pulled the trigger and shot Gregory Rice, even if if he went to trial and the jury agreed he did not pull the trigger, if they felt like he knew that this is what was going to happen when Meagan Jackson pulled up, then he would be just as liable. They could find him just as liable as the person who pulled the trigger. So, and I think, yeah, honestly, hearing the judge lay that out, I think the judge's argument, putting it into the perspective that he didn't want to come clean until 1,500 days had passed. And then using his testimony, well, yeah, obviously, in part, we just watched that clip at the beginning of this. I'm hoping for a lesser sentence. The judge picked up on those two things and seemed to be a big, big factor in his determination. And Kurt, good to see you, by the way. Guys, make sure you're checking out Uncivil Law. Especially, there's some downtime. I know a lot of people are looking for cases to cover. Uncivil Law, Kurt is one of my favorite people to watch when it comes to SCOTUS decisions and looking at, just legal analysis, because he will break it down and try to come up with counter arguments. And, he's not just reading things in a bubble to say, well, I want things to be this way, so I'm going to agree with this argument. And I don't like this argument, so I'm not going to agree with it. So I really love what he does over there. I'm glad that he's over here. He says he's from South Carolina. They don't play. So it doesn't seem like it. And I like the trial judge. This is a different judge for sentencing than at trial. Well, because it was Megan's trial, not Christopher's. But I really like the trial judge. He was really, really sharp. He, I think he was quick to say, like, we're not going to do that. Just stop. And he did it to both sides. He was even-handed with both sides. At the end of the day, you guys, let's see. I think most people were leaning to middle ground until the judge was speaking. Then a few people were like, oh yeah, we're going full, we're going max, based on how the judge was saying it. So, yes. And Mary says Kurt is on it every day, never misses a beat. So do you guys want to continue? Do you want to rewatch the testimony? We were about 20 minutes through on his direct. And it was about an hour long, and we were watching it at 1 1/4. And then his cross-examination, which again was one of the worst cross-examinations I've ever seen. Which is interesting, right? You know, it's his testimony on direct that this judge just used against him in determining this maximum sentence. It didn't matter that the cross-examination was a hot mess. But we could watch that. I've got a meeting at 1 p.m. Eastern, so I think we can fit both in. And let's see. Heck yeah, Angelica also saying here, South Carolina does not play. And I think most states, if not all, have some type of way that they've codified liability in criminal cases, where if you're there and you're knowing and you're present and you know that this is about to happen, you're a participant enough, even if you're not the one that actually does the full on action. There's at least some mechanism to hold you liable to some extent. So for South Carolina, it's the hand of one is the hand of all. And let's see. Yeah, Positive Masculinity said he's doing more time than Slime, but don't forget with the YSL trial, if deals were offered, they were up there in number. And even some of the pleas that we saw play out, like I know we like to talk about Mungtung's plea because he was given probation and then it was revoked. And we're seeing that fight play out with all the shenanigans that happened. But some of the other pleas we saw, like the final three, and even that wave of null pros, where the prosecution in December, maybe November, said, look, we're going to, these 6-7 remaining co-defendants, we're going to not prosecute these charges in the interest of, you know, judicial efficiency. They already are doing life sentences for other things, so we're just not even going to pursue this anymore. But some of the other pleas did actually carry quite a bit of time. And for those who were found not guilty at trial, aside from Shannon Stillwell's one gun possession charge, Yak recently said that he was offered a plea of 50 years to do 40. That was the plea they offered Diamante Kendrick, who is fully acquitted by a jury now. So just crazy. Did we have I don't know about Young Thug having a violation. Did something happen yesterday where Young Thug, the state filed something? I know a few days ago, the defense, Brian Steele, filed a motion to modify sentencing because he's still within that first year. But the motion didn't really have specifics of what they would be requesting. Let me see. All right, actually, hold on. We're going to segue, guys. So this is actually about the defense's motion to modify sentence. I didn't see a probation violation, but a month and a half ago, maybe, the state did file a motion and they were complaining that Jeffrey Williams was quote unquote making direct threats. The header in the motion was direct threats. And then underneath it, it was a bunch of social media posts from random accounts. And Judge Whitaker, she was like, nope, denied without a hearing. But she did make a footnote to the effect of, hey, Young Thug, you know, you probably should have the foresight to understand that the state's gonna try to keep arguing these things. But let's see here from Joseph Papp. Let me get this shared. So guys, we are gonna look at, on Twitter, we've got to make it a separate image to zoom in. Let's see, open image. And let's read. If you didn't know, Joseph Papp is with AJC. He's done great coverage of this case. And we're going to actually get these details that I said 2 seconds ago. We didn't know about the motion to modify. So we've got Jeffrey Williams by and through undersigned counsel hereby files this supplement to motion to modify sentence in the above referenced case. In support of this supplement, Mr. Williams shows as follows. On or about October 31st, 2024, Mr. Williams was sentenced by this honorable court. And remember, that was a non-negotiated sentence. On or about November 8th, 2024, this honorable court entered an amended final disposition, to wit, 5 years to serve in prison commuted to time served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed by 20 backloaded years in prison, and upon the successful completion of the full 15 years on probation, the backloaded portion of the sentence will be commuted to time served. Pursuant to OCGA 17-10(1)(f, Mr. Williams timely files this motion to modify sentence / supplement to motion to modify sentence. This honorable court is also authorized to modify any part of the probationary sentence at any time during the probationary period, pursuant to OCGA 42-834G. So let's see. Motion to modify sentence timely filed need not be ruled upon within the first year, but the motion needs to be filed within the first year of sentencing. Oh, that's interesting. For now, Mr. Williams respectfully asks this honorable court to consider modifying his sentence to, it looks like they're citing subsection I, quote, upon successful completion of the full 15 years of probation or less, the backloaded portion of the sentence will be commuted to time served, and section 2, so it's 1, not I, Mr. Williams shall remain in reporting status for the first half, 7.5 years of his probation, unless shortened by this honorable court. So there we go. Looking for the option to make this sentence a little bit shorter. There we go. And I don't think they're just requesting relief here. I think their initial motion before filing the supplement asked for a hearing, but I could be wrong on that. So there we go. Big thanks here. You guys make sure you follow Joseph Papp. It's a great way to get ongoing information in Fulton County, because there's no shortage of shenanigans happening over there. You know, I think every stream, no matter what we've been talking about, somehow we end up talking about Fulton County again. So there's always that. And let's see. Candace, you are on top of it. I am so, just amazed by your brain. I see Candace looking at all different cases, and you must have like a Rolodex of different cases. Like, all right, this one's got this one going on today. Whew. Yeah, and Positive Masculinity says, notice how tight this deal is, the state deal is compared to the Mungtunk deal. That Mungtunk deal is a hot mess. And again, going back to the initial plea shenanigans, which we took a look at accidentally yesterday with Mungtunk, it's the court that ends up having to tell the state and tell Mungtunk's attorney that, hey, this deal that you guys worked out, it was a negotiated plea. This deal that you worked out, it can't work. There's no mechanism for you to get probation and get out today. So you got to figure this out. And then Adrienne Love goes and fixes this, and she's the only one with a copy of this, the same, what ends up being worked out. So been a whole mess ever since. Funny you ask this on civil law, and big shout out to the chat. So his dad actually came into the chat yesterday, and I haven't covered that case. Although I watched Andrew Bronca go over, I guess, and you're in Texas now, but Texas self-defense, it seems like there's kind of an uphill battle for proving the justifiable use of force in a scenario like this. But yeah, his dad came into my chat yesterday, like, are you the one that's been talking about my son? And I haven't covered that trial, so I don't know if he got me confused with like another white girl or something. But chat handled it. I appreciate them for that. And he went away before saying anything too crazy. But yeah, I was busy going to look and see if it was really his profile. And by the time I got back, he was gone. So yeah, so I don't think I'm covering that. I didn't plan to cover that. But that was interesting yesterday. That was interesting. But are you? Because you're in Texas and you might understand. I like learning about justifiable use of force. Guys, states all have like their own quirky, nuanced laws in and around use of force. And it could get so detailed and so complicated. And really, even the situations as use of force law is applied can change from being justified to not justified subjectively and objectively in like the blink of an eye. So So yeah, okay. So if you're going to be covering that, I think that's maybe what you're saying yes to. I'll be watching it with you. So, and then let's see. And then the bathtub. Yeah, I didn't follow the bathtub trial, but guys, sentencing just started. The sentencing hearing for the bathtub murder trial, if you guys wanted to check that out. So, okay. Yep. So uncivil law will be covering the Carmelo Anthony trial. So that'll be interesting. I'll be following it. I am not well researched or qualified enough to speak on use of force in Texas. I've really only looked at it in depth for Florida and New York. I think it's even interesting, like states hearing the different burden. So before you actually go to trial for a self-defense case, the defense might decide like, hey, we actually are going to lodge an affirmative defense. We're going to say, yeah, we did the thing, but we did it in self-defense or defense of others. There's hearings before all of that where if you might be able to make a motion for immunity from prosecution. Hey, you shouldn't be able to prosecute us because this was clearly self-defense. And even at that level across different states have different ways of what burden needs to be met at that point in time too. It's just it's really tricky just because you followed self-defense in one case in one state. You can't just go over and understand the inner workings of how a case like that's going to proceed in another state. So I will be paying attention to that because that was a new thing I never really knew about the way Texas. I don't even remember the details of it, but I remember trying to listen to it and digest it and being like, that's a little different. So I will be watching that with uncivil law. We were a bit in the middle. Do you guys want to coast out? You guys are all on board to rewatch Christopher Dontell's the rest of his direct examination, and then what again, I'm crowning one of the worst cross-examinations of all time. Worst cross-examination of a star witness at that. We could get that done before I have a meeting to host for work at 1 p.m. 2 hours from now. And then if you want to jump out, if you don't want to watch that, we've been doing Love-A-Palooza rewinds. I might be able to do a small part 3 where we go back and watch Prosecutor Love in the YSL trial. I might be able to do like an hour or two tonight later this evening. So put the bell on if you want to get a notification for that. If not, we're going to do one tomorrow. So let's get over here. Again, Past Me is in the top. I'll update my banner so we can say, I'll update my banner so we're no longer waiting for the sentencing, and we'll get into it. Let's see, make this bigger. Captions are on, and here we go.
Conversations or issues she was having with the victim.
Yes. So during that trip, she claimed that Greg Rice was upset because she had left the kids with him for longer than he expected to have them. And then she showed me what appeared to be a text from Greg saying something to the effect of, "You have a storm coming."
Did she show you just that text message, or did she show you like an entire conversation?
She did not show me the entire conversation. Matter of fact, that's the only line I remember.
Did the defendant talk to you about that sort of message?
Wait, guys, I'm sorry. Touche. I'm sorry. Let me apologize to Touche. We had Touche come in the building. Thank you so much. Right as sentencing was about to start. So I delayed it and then forgot about it. So I'm so sorry. But Touche said, I was driving and will be lurking, but wanted to agree with you that she's deranged. This is talking about Meagan Jackson. I left a comment under that live stream when he testified with my thoughts on him, but I think she's legit creepy. And no matter what, I think we've kind of all gotten there. we have the kids, her own kids acknowledging that. We've got Erica Dontell acknowledging that, even though she wants her husband to be given leniency. We've got everybody all around. Like, Meagan did put people under the spell. The only issue for the judge to decide today was, does Christopher Dontell deserve leniency on this max 20-year term because he was under the control of somebody else? And the judge seemed to say, look, you had a chance to come clean sooner. You violated your bond condition. You weren't willing to be truthful during that proffer. Although the judge didn't mention it, I thought it was interesting. The defense attorney mentioned the previous attorney was guiding, apparently, or we got it from Erica Dontell. Apparently had a dinner with Erica and said, yes, I am giving the advice to Christopher Dontell that he should continue communication with Meagan, that it's for his benefit to do so, for safety, for what have you. I thought that was an interesting detail, but oh well now. And I don't know if I doubt the veracity of that since it came from Erica, but maybe Erica could have been embellishing something to try to come up with an excuse that, if believed at face value, would help Christopher Dontell obtain a lesser sentence. Well, he was only being dishonest at the advice of his attorney. He was only violating his rules at the advice of his attorney. But that's a very big accusation to levy against an attorney. So, but yeah, so we've got that updated. Let's get into the rest of his direct.
Well, going forward from that point, she acted as if she was terrified of Greg, and that if that, that storm coming message meant that he was going to abuse her again. She was in fear of him, and it was a constant subject of conversation after that. I don't know how she did it. She's very tech savvy, and she did something with her phone to where she could see Greg's phone screen on her phone, and she could track his location. She could see if he was texting somebody, she could see his screen on her screen from wherever she was. Like I said, the constant conversation. Oh, she thought that he was going to use the kids against her. She claimed that he had made comments about trying to take the kids and get child support from her. And like I said, it was a constant conversation after she got that text.
Again, I apologize, I'm jumping around a little bit. At some point, did the defendant tell you that she had become pregnant?
Yes.
Was that before or after the trip to Florida?
Before. That would have been in, I believe it was late August.
Did she tell you who the father of the child was?
She said that the father of the child was me.
At some point during this time period when the anonymous text messages were being sent, was there ever any conversation about a package coming in the mail?
Yes. One of the anonymous texts that my wife received said that something along the lines of all the proof is in the mail, or all the proof, all these messages will be sent in paper form, something like that, in the mail.
And so what conversations did you and the defendant have about this potential package?
I don't remember exact conversations we had about it, but I can tell you when it came, I was home and I received it.
Who was the package addressed to?
It was addressed to my wife.
Was there a return address on it?
There was. It was from an education company in Columbia.
What made you think that that was the package that would be related to the anonymous text?
Because the company that was listed, or the school that was listed as the sender, was not the school that my wife worked for. It was a different one. And combine that with the fact that supposedly this stuff was coming in the mail, I put two and two together, and I opened the package. And
what did you see inside?
I saw several pages of what appeared to be screenshots of text messages, as well as photo collages. And to be honest with you, I didn't even examine it. I knew what it was, and I got in my car and drove it down to the defendant's house and gave it to her.
Did you have any idea what she was going to do with that package?
I did not.
But you said you saw photo. What did you see inside the box?
Photo collages. Some of the pages had screenshots of text messages. Some of them had photo collages. I mean, I noticed that there were some pictures I recognized of myself on there, but I didn't analyze each page or look at all the pictures.
Really? Let's do the credibility vote now, chat.
Let's move to October 2nd.
Okay.
Let's do the
Starting
credibility
at
vote.
about 6:15, the jury has seen evidence that you and the defendant left River's Edge in separate cars around 6:15, 6:20.
That's testimony from Split.
I'm just trying to orient him into, so
I suspend the objection, just ask your question.
at some point that evening, did you and the defendant leave River's Edge community at about the same time?
I don't believe so. I believe I was already out working,
Of course it was.
and when I met with her, if I recall correctly, it was at the Heritage Wildlife Preserve.
Court indulgence.
He said he didn't really look. He knew what it was immediately and just drove down to the defendants, but he was looking through the pages, and he said he was looking through the pages. And that's just a weird
What
thing
type of car did you
to
typically drive?
mishmash.
A silver Ford Explorer.
Was that a county car?
Yes.
What type of car did the defendant typically drive?
Typically I believe it was silver, Honda Odyssey minivan.
I'm approaching you with admitted exhibits 136 and 138. So let's start with 136. Do you recognize both the car and the driver in that photo?
Yes, that's the defendant driving her work van.
What's the date and time stamp on that?
October 2nd, 6:16 p.m.
Okay, now look at 138. Do you recognize that car?
Yeah, that appears to be me entering the gate at October 2nd at 6:20 p.m. Okay.
And you said entering. Is that you entering the community or?
Yeah, I believe we're both entering in that picture.
Peter, I
I'm
wish
not
we had
sure.
two screens
And
to
if not,
see her
that's fine.
face the whole
I don't know.
time that he's on the stand. Thank you for
Shortly
the
after
two.
this time, did you two go to, I'm just calling it Preserve because the name's too long, the Preserve on International Drive?
We did, yes.
What was the purpose of going there?
Shooting.
This is Future Cat. I completely forgot about this nature preserve and the blow up Betty doll. Totally forgot.
Had you done that before?
Yes, many times.
Did you, when you would go shooting, who was shooting? Was it you, was it her, or was it a combination?
If I might backtrack a little bit, prior to all of this, I would say total throughout the duration of time that from the time I met the defendant until all of this transpired, we probably went shooting 12 to 15 times. Sometimes it was at the Heritage Preserve. Sometimes it was in the woods off of Water Tower Road. I know she shot more frequently than I did, but she often asked me to go with her, and sometimes I did. Sometimes I went and didn't shoot, and she shot. Sometimes I did shoot.
So speaking directly to the night of October 2nd, who shot that night?
The defendant.
Do you know what kind of gun she used?
I don't know the kind of gun. I know it was a small black gun. I don't know the brand or anything.
How long, you can estimate, and if you can't, that's fine. How long were you in the Preserve that night?
Not long. So I had worked all day that day. I went on call for the coroner's office at 8 o'clock that morning. I got my first call pretty much right away, and I stayed busy all day. I hadn't eaten much, and I wanted to go to get some dinner. That was my priority. So when we shot, we weren't there more than 10 to 15 minutes. I remember it being muddy, and all I could think about was eating. So we didn't stay long.
Really?
So did you guys in fact go to eat after that?
We did, yes.
Where did you go?
Abuelos.
How long were you at Boyle's for? You can estimate or not if you don't know.
I would only be estimating an hour maybe.
What did you do after Abuelos?
So, well, while we were at Abuelos, I remembered that a friend of my family who works at a different restaurant, it was her last weekend working there, and I mentioned to the defendant that we should have gone there in Sacristy. So we decided that when we left Abuelos, we would stop by there to see her on her last shift. So we left Abuelos and headed for the restaurant in Sacristy. When we got there, there was a line out the door, there was nowhere to park, so we ended up not even going there. So we continued on down the road to another friend of ours' residence. He lives on a houseboat in the Osprey Marina. So we headed for the Osprey Marina.
Did you end up going to that friend's house?
We did not. So backtracking again, I'm sorry. the defendant was acting unusual all day that day. Starting early in the day, she was unavailable for my death calls, which was very unusual because normally when I'm on call, she's right behind me. She'll follow me around the county, and she would respond to my calls whether I needed her there or not. So it was unusual that she wasn't available part of the day. And then she was very quiet. Even at Abuelo, she was reserved and something was off. So then while we're driving, when we got to the Osprey Marina, I was turning in and she said, just keep driving. I don't want to see Charles, who's our friend. I don't feel like dealing with people. Just keep driving.
So what did you guys do?
So we continued driving. I remember we drove down Enterprise Road to Bay Road and looped back around to 707.
I can't hear the word enterprise anymore.
Two of you during that ride?
Not that I recall in particular, but we, at some point I remember I realized that I didn't have any of my supplies that I needed for work. I had a little blue bag that I carried with me that had all the paperwork I needed. It had my gloves. It had things I would need if I were to get a death call. And I had left it in my Explorer at Abuelo's. So we went, at some point we went back to get the bag out of my Explorer in case I got a death call. So I would be able to do what I needed to do.
Can I infer that you and the defendant were driving in her van when you
We were, yeah, we left my Explorer at Abuelo's. And I was driving her van.
What happened after you went back to Abuelo's to pick up your bag?
She said that she needed to stop by at Myrtle Beach Funeral Home because she had left her glasses there earlier that day.
Was this after typical business hours at a funeral home?
Yeah, it was late. It was dark. So it had to have been 9 o'clock or so.
How would you guys have gotten into the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home? If it's after hours?
With the key.
Who had a key?
The defendant definitely had one. I may have also had one. I had keys to some funeral homes, but not others. So we had at least one key with us, maybe two.
Okay. So the defendant says she has to get glasses. Did you in fact go to the funeral home?
We did.
Tell me about that. What happened?
So we went to the funeral home and I assumed she was looking for her glasses. She went to the left. We walked in the back door of the building. She walked to the left, which is back toward where the embalming room is. I went straight up the hall toward the office. At some point, I heard her speaking, presumably on the phone. And then I heard the conversation end. She came to the office. When she
Buffering.
got to the office, she had her cell phone out. And I was talking to her and she wasn't looking up at me. Whatever was on her phone, she was very, had her attention. And she said, I have to go see Greg.
Did she say why she had to go see Greg?
She did not, but I said, well, I'm not going.
Why not? Why wouldn't you go?
Because she was constantly complaining about drama and abuse, and I didn't want to be part of it. She would typically take a friend with her. Her friend Savannah would go with her to Greg's house, or she would go on her own.
Is that based on what she told you, or did you actually witness her?
Based on what she told me.
So what?
I didn't want to be caught up in drama.
What happened when you told her you weren't going to go?
She said she would just be a few minutes, just go with her.
What happened next?
So I drove her van. We drove toward Greg's apartment complex, which is off of Arrowhead Road.
Let me stop you there for a second. Did you know where Greg lived before this?
I knew where his apartment complex was. I'd been there on death calls before, so I knew roughly, I forget what it was called now, but I knew how to get to the general area.
Did you ever require directions to get there?
No.
What? So I'm sorry, now continue. You headed in the direction of...
We headed in the direction. She called Greg while we were driving, and I guess he had indicated to her that he was outside. She told me that she makes him meet her outside because she's uncomfortable going to his apartment. So he meets her outside of the apartment complex. So we were driving down Arrowhead Road, and I saw Greg on the left side of the road walking towards us, just outside of the apartment complex. And I said, is that him? She said, yeah.
Is this where she
as we
shoots?
approached him, I started to slow down, and she said, make a U-turn. So I kind of passed him, made a U-turn. And as I pulled up alongside him, she said, because he stopped walking, he kind of turned to face our van. And I was stopping right next to him. And she said, pull up, don't be awkward. So I said, pull up. She said, yeah, pull up. So I pulled up so that we had passed him.
What happened next?
She opened the door and shot him.
How many shots did you hear?
A lot.
What did you do?
I froze.
Did the defendant say anything to you at that point?
Yeah. She said, what are you doing? Help me, cursing at me, help me.
So what did you do?
I got out of the van and walked toward the back of the van. Greg was laying right at the back of the van on the side of the road.
What did you do?
She said, put him in the back of the van. So I opened the back of the van and we started treating him just as we would treat any other body. And I grabbed a sheet, wrapped it up like a rope,
So they
put
already
it
had
underneath
the
his torso to help with leverage. And then in her van, she had what we call I don't remember what we called it, like a sliding board. It was a black plastic backboard, and it was flexible so you could put a body on it and easily slide it and maneuver it around. I pulled that off of her stretcher and using the sheet as leverage, we both picked Greg up and put him on the sliding board and put him into the back of the van.
What did you do next?
I reached in and started buckling him. So on the mortuary stretchers that we put him on, there's 2 seat belts, and you click them, and what they do is they hold the body in place. And I started to do that, and she started screaming and cussing at me and said, what are you doing? We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. And I shut the back door. Greg was just kind of haphazardly on the stretcher. He wasn't buckled on. He wasn't covered up. And we got in the van and I hightailed it out of there.
How long would you say you were in the Arrowhead community?
Not long. I mean, it happened fast. And by the time when I pulled up in front of him, it was like one swift move. Like she opened the door, slid out, and it was pop, 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 pop.
Had the 2 of you moved bodies before together? You just have to say yes or no.
Yes.
As part of your jobs, was that a fairly frequent occurrence?
Yes, every day.
So you said that you hightailed it out of the Arrowhead community. Where did you go?
We went back to the funeral home.
What happened when you got there?
Well, first of all, on the way there, I asked her, what just happened? Why did you do that? And she didn't say much. She told me to go to the funeral home. And I just remember the complete nonchalance. Just like this was like, it was like a minor inconvenience that we were going through.
You just changed up real quick.
So what happened once you got back to the funeral home?
So at the funeral home, when you bring a body in, they have a garage and they have coolers in the garage, and the coolers have one door that you open, and there's either 3 or 4 shelves inside the door. And we wheeled Greg in on stretcher. I made a cremation container, which is pretty much a glorified cardboard box. And you use little zip ties to tie it up and make it rigid. And I made one just like we would make for anybody else. And I put it into the cooler and pushed the stretcher up next to it and started to push Greg in. And the whole time she was yelling, "Are you stupid? Are you stupid? Hurry up. We got to get out of here. Hurry up. Are you stupid?" Over and over again. Are you stupid?
I mean,
did you have any concerns about leaving the victim in a cooler and leaving the funeral home?
I put so sometimes the coroner's office will use funeral homes as extra storage, like if we're out of room at the morgue in Conway, or if it's for whatever reason, we might need to leave the body in a funeral home. And typically we put a note on the shelf that the body's on that just said hold for coroner. And that's what I did. I put a note on it that said hold for coroner.
Would that have been unusual? I know, hold for coroner?
No, that was the regular thing.
During this time that you're taking Greg out of the van and loading him into the cooler, were you able to see him? Was there a lot of blood?
So the night that we put him in,
Yes, the night he was killed.
I did not look. I had draped a sheet across him when we brought him in from the van, and I just pushed him in like he was. Now the next night, I saw him.
Okay,
And
I'll get to that in just a minute.
Okay.
So after you put Greg in the cooler, what did you guys do?
Got out of there fast and went back to her house.
Did you go back to?
I'm sorry. Yeah. On the way back to her house, we had to get my
This is where she loses it.
Explorer from.
She looks
Avoidance.
angry.
So we stopped to get my Explorer before we went back to her house. On the way to get the Explorer, she told me that if I ever told anybody what happened, she would kill me. And that we have to be in this together. She told me that I have to stay with her that night. I better not leave her. And then we went, got my Explorer. We went to Lowe's food store, International Drive. And I can't remember which vehicle we left there, but we left one of the vehicles in the parking lot at the Lowe's food store. and
So
took
your
the other
Explorer
two.
was still at Abuelo's, but you went and picked it up and went to Lowe's. I'm just trying to get that.
Correct, yes.
Where did you go after that?
We went to Megan's house.
So at some point, did you go back to the funeral home that night?
We did.
Why?
So I got to backtrack and tell you the background. When we got back to her house, her daughter, Savannah, was watching TV in the living room. I just remember thinking how normal it looked in the house. I had to pretend that this hadn't just happened. Sorry. Megan went straight to the shower, and I sat on the couch with Savannah. I'm sorry, Savannah.
Okay, you just have to answer my question.
Sat on the couch with her, and I tried to make small talk, like I hadn't just watched her mother kill her father. I'm sorry, what was the question?
You said you would return to the funeral home at some point that night. So you got back to Megan's house. She's upstairs taking a shower. You're on the couch with Savannah. What happened next?
Okay, so there's an app that we use for the coroner's office. It's called Iris.
Is that
And
IRIS?
I believe it's IRISS.
Okay, thank you.
Like you stop
So there's an
crying
app.
quick
I'm
or
sorry.
whatever.
That's okay.
So the Iris app, it tells you what's going on in the county. Only law enforcement, fire, rescue, coroners have access to it. And I remember seeing on the app that there was what appeared to be a pending death on the south end of town. It said it was a cardiac arrest. The call came in as a cardiac arrest. I believe it was a man that was found down in his driveway. And I told the defendant after she got out of the shower about that call. I said, looks like there's going to be a death call, and I can't not go on it. I can't act like something is out of the ordinary. And she said that she wanted to go back to the funeral home anyway because she forgot to get Greg's belongings off of his body.
Did she ever say why she wanted to get his belongings?
I don't know that she specifically said why.
Okay. Did you then go back to the funeral home?
We did.
What happened when you got there?
When we got there, I parked out back. I did not go in at first. It's very late at night at this point. It's got to be probably after midnight. And I parked out back. I stayed in the car. The defendant went into the building. And right after she went in the building, two older people, an older couple, walked around from the side of the building around back. And I had never seen them before. And they were walking toward the door of the building. And I thought it was unusual that they were going into the back door of the funeral home at 12:30 at night. So I asked them, I rolled down the window, I said, can I help you? And they weren't very friendly. They just said, we're here to work. So with everything that was going on this evening, everything in the world just wasn't adding up to me. So I got out of the Explorer and went into the funeral home. I walked back to the left and because I saw the light was on in the embalming room, and they were in there. The older couple was in there, and they told me that they were trade embalmers and that they were there to embalm the body. I still thought it was odd that I had never seen them before, but there was a deceased woman on the table, and they appeared to be embalmers. So I made small talk with them for a minute, and I left. I walked back out to the main hallway to go back outside. At that point, the defendant was walking down the hallway like she had come from the front of the building.
How long would you say the defendant was in the funeral home before the trade embalmers went in?
Not long at all. Maybe less than a minute, probably.
When she came walking up, did you ever see what she had taken from Greg's body?
Yeah, I saw keys and I forget what else, but she had some of his personal effects.
Did she ever tell you what she did with that stuff?
Yeah, so the next morning, I'm still on call. I'm on call all throughout this weekend. The next morning, I had death calls in the morning. She went on, I believe, the first death call I had. She actually did the transport for it. And then she said she was going to be unavailable because she had to make things seem normal for the kids, and she was supposed to take them to Greg's apartment that morning.
So what did she do with the belongings?
So I'm sorry. I wasn't there, but she told me that she took the kids and Greg's belongings to his apartment, and that she hid his keys and his wallet in a cushion on his front porch, and then let the kids find them for some reason. So she hid the belongings that she took off his body on his outdoor furniture, let the kids find them. She also told me that while she was there, she went back out to the road in front of the complex and picked up shell casings that were in the road that had been left there the night before. This was in broad daylight.
So this is now October 3rd?
Yeah, the morning of the 3rd.
Okay. Did you and the defendant have any conversations about what to do with Greg's body?
Yeah, so I believe what happened that morning after she took the kids to Greg's apartment was she went to her boss's house and dropped them off there because Greg, what?
I pick what he believes. That's the standard. If he knows, he knows. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
Okay, the defendant told me that she dropped the kids off with her boss, Chuck Benjamin.
Shout out to Viking Squad.
At which point she became available for death calls because she didn't have kids anymore.
For quick context here, we are rewatching the testimony of Christopher Dontell. He was sentenced today. The judge gave him the max of the time he was facing, 15 for conspiracy to commit murder, and 5, which is the max for accessory after the fact. He's done like about 1,588 days already, so he'll get credit for that time served. But the judge in sentencing used his own testimony against him and said, you know, I feel like you waited 1,500 days and change to finally come clean. And you only did it, as you testified, because you were seeking a reduced sentence. So we're rewatching his direct testimony right now. We're going to watch his cross-examination, which separately from what the subject matter of his testimony is. The defense attorney, their cross-examination is one of the worst I've ever seen. So I keep saying that, but that's what we're watching. And then I'm dropping the link right now. Journalist Joseph Papp had shared the Young Thug modification request. And if you want to check that out, it's a quick 2-pager. They're basically just looking for the judge to incorporate language in the sentencing that, hey, it could be 15 years or less on probation, and it could be 7.5 years or less of reporting time for Jeffrey Williams. So good to see you, Vikings. Good to see you.
I had a death call on Treetop.
One more piece of context. So Meagan Jackson, this was a jury trial. They convicted her in less than 2 hours. That was a short one. She was sentenced to life without parole. And for Christopher Dontell, the day his trial was supposed to start, he said he wanted to take a plea. So he takes a plea, and the state wants to withhold sentencing until after he testifies, which that date was today. So we're rewatching his old testimony.
Court off of Bay Road, and the defendant came and did that transport for me. So I went inside and I talked with the next of kin of the deceased. The defendant came in. We did our normal job preparing the body for transport. Got the body onto the stretcher together, at which point the defendant took the stretcher to her van, and I went to my Explorer to do the paperwork that goes along with the body to the funeral. While I was doing the paperwork, the defendant got in the passenger seat of my Explorer. And she told me that I had to get rid of the body.
What did you say?
I said no.
Here comes the Lowe's and the Pepsi
I
shirt.
told her that she should ask Jim to cremate the body. Jim was the owner of the funeral home. I told her she should ask Chuck to help her, that I was already way more involved than I wanted to be. And she told me, this isn't about Jim. This isn't about Chuck. This is about you, and I saved your life. This is the least you could do for me.
So did you agree to dispose of Greg's body?
Not at first. It was an ongoing debate all day. With me refusing to do it, and then her telling me that if that body gets found at the funeral home, she's going to kill me. And I'll tell you, I'd known Meagan for a while at that point, and she talked like that all the time. She talked like, I'm going to kill this person or that person. I want to kill my kids. I want to gouge so-and-so's eyes out.
That's not responsible to the question.
Keep going.
I'm going to gouge so-and-so's eyes out.
Right.
But prior to all this happening, I never took that seriously. But on the night of the second, that changed. And, when I heard her say, do this or do that, or I'm going to kill you. I just watched her kill the father of her kids. I'm going to take it serious.
So did you, in fact, dispose of Greg's body?
I did. So I went to Lowe's, and I honestly at the time had no idea what I was going to do with the body, or if I was even going to do what she wanted me to do. I didn't want to do it. And when I was there shopping at Lowe's, I didn't know where I was taking him. I didn't know if I was going to go to the water or to the woods or somewhere else. And I just started buying things that I thought might be useful. And it makes me sick to even tell this story. I'm sorry.
Well, at some point, did you go back to the funeral home to get Greg's body?
Yes. So, and if I can fill in a little bit again, I bought the items at Lowe's. Later on in the day, we had a death call in Aner. The defendant was available for it. While we were on the death call, she told me that she was having a miscarriage, actively. And that particular body was going to be stored at the coroner's office at the morgue there. So we left the house where the person died, and we took them back to the coroner's office. And the defendant got out of her van and walked straight into the bathroom of the coroner's office and was in there for, I estimate, 20 to 30 minutes. I handled the body. I took care of what needed to be done. Eventually, she came out of the bathroom and she told me, again, so nonchalantly, well, I'm having a miscarriage, so things are really working out for you. Greg's dead and I'm having a miscarriage. And she told me that I better get rid of that body tonight. Me and Greg's body.
So at some point, did you go back to the funeral home to get Greg's body?
Yeah, I waited till it was dark. I went back by myself. She had told me to get him out of the county. So I went to the funeral home and I took my Explorer and I put him in my Explorer.
What did you transport him in?
So I had grabbed a portable stretcher. I believe I got it out of her van. It was either out of the van or it was out of the funeral home itself. But they have these fold-up stretchers. They fold out and they look like a big heavy-duty backboard. I took him out of the cooler. I put him on that.
Was there anything covering the stretcher before you put Greg's body on top?
There was. I unfolded the tarp that I purchased and put it on the
What did you do
stretcher.
next?
I pulled Greg out using the sheets that were still around him from the previous night, and I pulled him over onto the tarp. And at this point, I looked at him because it all seemed so surreal. I just had to see his face and believe it was him.
Well, let me stop you there for a second. Obviously, you saw deceased people on a regular basis. Were you able to tell at that point whether Greg was alive or dead?
He was dead. I knew he was dead. He was dead within a couple seconds of her shooting him.
So what did you do after you put him on the...
Now, one of the things I want to interject and say here, because that's old me up on the screen from when we watched this in real time, is I think it's very self-serving for him to say he died right then and there, because it's even if he only found out in the moment that she was going to shoot him, if there was a possibility that he could have lived, but he didn't want to render aid and he helped tie this man down so he couldn't be found to get aid some other way, that would make him that's another pathway to find him culpable of murder, right? Conspiracy. Because maybe he wouldn't have died if he was able to get aid. But here, him saying that, it's wedging away that possibility. So I thought that was pretty self-serving, but maybe it's true. I don't know.
Stretcher that the tarp is covering.
I strapped him on using the seatbelts on the stretcher, and I took him out to the Explorer and put him in the Explorer. And at this point, I still didn't know where I was going. So I sat behind the funeral home for a few minutes, and I thought about going to Myrtle's Inlet. There's a lot of water down there. And then I decided, I don't even remember my train of thought, but I decided to take him out 501. I knew that the PD River was out on the county line. And I started heading that direction. So while I was on 501, I just didn't want to be doing this. And all I could think about was, how can I get out of this? I felt like there was no good decision I could make. I called the police. She's going to kill me. Pulled over into a parking lot, and I sat there for a few minutes. It was just a business. It was late nights, an empty parking lot. Just trying to think of how can I get out of it. And eventually I came to the realization that I wasn't getting out of it, and I just had to finish what I was doing. So I looked at the map on my phone, the river at the county line, and I decided to head out 378.
I want them to show her face right now.
I drove out 378 and there wasn't much traffic, but as I got close to the county line, there was a car that had flown up behind me, and I pulled into a little convenience store about a mile or so before the county line, and I let that car pass. And then I continued out toward the river. When I got there, I actually drove across the bridge, and after you cross the bridge into Marion County, there's a sharp bend that leads to the right in the road. After that bend, you can see ahead for a long ways. And I made sure that there was no oncoming cars so that nobody was going to pull up on me while I was doing what I was doing. And once I knew there were no cars coming, I did a U-turn. I went back to the middle of the bridge and I popped the back gate of the Explorer. It took about 10 seconds to put them in the water.
What did you do after that?
Went back to the defendant's house.
Was there any conversation at that point about getting rid of, had you done that?
I came in and she smiled at me and said, "Did you do what you need to do? What you needed to do?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Good boy."
Let me just back up on something. Do you know what happened to the gun the defendant
You're
used?
looking over at the jury to see if they're looking at him.
Did she ever tell you what she did?
She told me that she put it in the intercoastal waterway off of International Drive, along with shell casings and I believe some of his other personal effects.
At some point, did the two of you kind of strategize about what to tell the police if they ever questioned you?
Yeah. So I got a call from Greg Lent with Horry County Police asking me to come in to talk about Greg Rice's disappearance.
Oh.
At this point, he hadn't been found. So I told the defendant that I got that call, at which point she started drumming up this whole story about what we were going to tell him. And
They probably knew you were
That's
communicating in that
it was
moment.
not true at all.
Is that the story you repeated to the police
Yes.
time and time again before your arrest?
Yes, I felt like I had no choice.
At some point, did you decide to tell the truth about what happened?
I did.
And what spurred that decision? What made you decide to tell the truth?
Well, the first conversation I had with my lawyer, I told her what I was guilty of, and I said, I will plead to that now and I'll tell the whole truth. But I want my family to be protected.
The
Because
lawyer
as soon as
has
it came out that I was talking and actually telling the truth and not the story, I didn't know what she would do. She would hurt my family.
the lawyer has said that.
So back in December, my lawyer arranged for, I guess they came to an agreement with the county that they would put some type of GPS radius around my family. And my understanding of it was that if the defendant, who was on home detention at the time on an ankle monitor, were to enter into these areas anywhere near my family, the police would be dispatched immediately. That was the point where I was somewhat comfortable telling the truth.
So did you meet with Ms. Waller and investigators at Bayreuth and Long?
Yes.
At the beginning of that meeting, did you tell the entire truth?
At the beginning of the meeting,
Did you come in with a written statement? No, actually,
I did. Well, yeah, I came with a written statement. When I wrote the statement, I didn't tell the whole truth. That was prior to my conversation with my lawyer about the GPS radius and protecting my family. So yes, I came with that statement, but during that meeting, the safety arrangement was made, at which point I told the entire truth.
of course, it was. State's Exhibit 158.
He is still married.
All right, so
Sorry,
this
ladies,
is,
he's taken.
An aerial view of the Arrowhead complex with the Flint Lake Apartments right in here. I'll hold it closer to you because I know you can't with your arms. Can you show us where?
So this is Arrowhead, right?
Yeah, that's Arrowhead.
Okay.
And this would be, I think that's the,
Clay Pond?
yeah, that's the Clay Pond entrance.
Okay.
So can you tell us if that's Flint Lake, where along this road
Yeah.
the defendant,
So he
the
would-
victim shot?
he would come out and make it right.
Here, I'm just, sorry, I'm gonna hold it up like,
Yeah.
Tommy, can you just not block the view of the jury? Sure.
It would have been somewhere in the vicinity of where this new, it looks like a new construction road is on one side, and then looks like there's a fairway for a golf course on the other side of the road, straight across from the construction.
Okay, so I wanna make sure, and then I'll show the jury. This area right here where this construction is,
Correct, generally right in that vicinity.
did you see that, Tom?
Yeah.
Is the dad gonna cross him?
Right at construction.
The final boss. Okay, so they're gonna get over. She doesn't have any more questions. We're gonna get over to the cross. Oh, guys, let me tell you, this cross was a time. This cross
I don't,
was a time. If you didn't watch this trial, the dad had done some evidentiary arguments at this point, and he raised one good evidentiary issue. But besides that, it was the sons that were doing opening statements and cross-examination. And then the dad gets up with the star witness here and just, I'll let you be the judge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Make sure you have your own notepads and no one else's notepads. Cross-examination.
Mr. Dontell, were you married in a church?
no.
Where were you married?
Where?
Yeah.
At Ripken Stadium in Maryland.
Okay. Did you take any vows at that wedding?
I did, yes.
Did you vow to be faithful to your wife?
Yes,
You weren't though, were you?
no,
In fact, there were numerous occasions where you weren't faithful to her, isn't that true?
correct.
For a long period of time, several months,
Mhm.
you were having sex with Meagan Jackson, right?
Correct,
All over the place. Your house, no place.
correct,
And your wife is still living in your house.
correct.
And nowhere during that time did you tell her what was happening.
No,
You didn't say, you know, I met somebody and we need to separate.
no,
You were having sex with both of them, isn't that true?
correct.
And that is worse than a lie, isn't it, sir? That's betrayal, isn't it?
I suppose so.
You're the kind of man that will lie and betray his own wife. Is that true?
I did for a period of time, yes.
Well, if bad enough one time, how about 15 or 20?
Is the question how about 15 or 20?
Well, let's just say, how many times do you have sex with Meagan Jackson?
I don't know.
Too many to count, right?
I suppose so.
You met your wife, seems like a fine person. You broke her heart, didn't you?
Yes,
You're the kind of man that's so selfish. He'll hurt others. You cried about your family? Up here on that stand, you cried about your family? You weren't crying about your family when you were doing what you were doing with Meagan Jackson, were you?
no, I was completely blind to everything that was going on aside from Megan.
Oh, well, let me ask you about that. You blame Meagan Jackson for having oral sex with you and all that kind of thing. You blame her?
I don't blame Megan Jackson for that. No, sir. I blame myself.
That's a good point. You blame yourself. You're not blaming her. You talked at the beginning like she did this, she did that. You're a grown man. You could have decided to tell her no and never have anything to do with her. Could.
I could have.
And you could have stopped anytime you wanted to. Right?
Yes,
Okay. But you did stop. Even after the way you described these events of that night, through your tears, you were still having sex with Meagan Jackson afterwards.
correct, for a period, yes.
Okay? So that takes a special man, doesn't it? To see the things you saw and cry all those tears, and you go right back having sex with her. That's unusual, isn't it?
I don't know if it's usual or not.
Well, it's wrong, wasn't it?
I would say it was wrong.
Yeah, that Bible you put your hand over says it's wrong, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's adultery. You were committing adultery, right?
Right.
And that's in the 10 Commandments that you're not supposed to do
Objection, Your Honor. Is there a question on that?
it. Yeah, I'm asking a question because you understand that it's in the Bible that you don't commit adultery,
I do understand that, yes.
but you were doing it, right?
I've answered this question several times now. Yes, sir, I was.
Well, okay. Now, let's talk about your statements. You freely admitted, I believe, on direct examination that you have lied to the police throughout this process.
Correct.
As you sit there today, even you admit that your testimony is unreliable because you're a liar.
What's the question?
You admit that you're unreliable because of the lies you told and the deception you have practiced.
No, I do not admit that.
All right. So you finally decided to tell the truth today, huh?
I decided to tell the truth once I had protection from your client, once my family was protected from her and her threats.
You were scared of it.
Yes,
Why didn't you leave her? Better yet, why didn't you go tell the police?
I was in jail during this time.
So I'm talking about that period in between. When you say all this happened, you, at that point, based on your testimony, you hadn't done anything wrong, right? When you get rid of the body, your testimony is you didn't have anything to do with the shooting. You didn't know it was going to happen, right?
That's correct. I did not know the shooting was going to happen.
Okay. So you had no agreement with Meagan Jackson to commit a crime until afterwards when you took the body and you did that by yourself, didn't you? She went with you.
We both picked up the body from the scene of death
Who took the
immediately
body?
after the death occurred.
That wasn't the question.
Who took the body to the river?
I took the body to the river,
She was not with you, isn't that true?
not when I took the body to the river.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, you're a grown man. In fact, you were a county officer. Who? Deputy
True.
Carter, a county officer.
True.
And you knew all that. You knew most of these policemen, didn't you?
Several of them, yes.
They were friends.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, you were friends with the policemen?
I wouldn't say we were friends. I worked alongside them frequently.
Well, they knew you were. You knew they were.
Some of them, yes.
Part of your job was working with the police.
Objection, Your Honor. He's not asking questions. He's simply making
Ask your
statements.
question.
Isn't it true that part of your job is working with the police?
Yes.
So what stopped you from going to one of your acquaintances and telling them what happened?
The fact that your client told me that if I did that, she would kill me, and I had watched her kill the father of her kids, so I believed her.
Well, why don't you go tell the police that part of the story?
Why don't I?
Yeah, you have her picked up by the police before you did anything wrong.
Because I was afraid she was going to kill me if I told the truth.
You don't expect this jury to believe that you were scared of that woman to such an extent that you wouldn't report what you consider to be, and now telling us is her misconduct. You're not that big of a scaredy cat, are you?
What was the question?
Are you scared? You said you did things wrong, but you scared of that woman sitting over there.
Absolutely.
My question is, as a county officer, why did you take matters into your own hand and report her and see that justice was served on her?
I've answered this question twice already, and the answer is because she told me she would kill me, and I had seen her kill the father of her kids, and I believed that she would kill me as well.
Okay. So, but nothing kept you from reporting it except your fear.
Objection, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered multiple times.
I got him on cross in the work case.
Okay, go ahead. Ask your question, to you.
Nothing except your fear of that little woman there prevented you from reporting these incidents to the police. True or false?
That's true.
Okay. Now, let's look at your guilty plea. You remember that pretty well?
I believe so.
Okay. And let me take you through what I believe happened there. You remember who the judge was?
Who the judge was?
Yes.
Alex Hyman.
Yeah, okay. So you decided at the last minute, right as Ms. Waller was standing up, make the opening statement, that you were going to plead to something, right?
This is
Correct.
important.
Okay. And so, once you said that, they shifted into a guilty plea instead of a full-blown trial. Isn't that true?
Correct.
Okay. And part of that process was to stand you up in front of the judge and put you under oath.
Correct.
Okay. So in other words, you swore in that setting to tell the truth to a sitting circuit judge.
Objection, Your Honor, still not a question.
He was asking the questions, right?
The judge was, yes.
Judge Howland was asking the questions,
Yes.
and you were responding, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you told him you were gonna tell the truth. Didn't you?
Yes.
And then what happened was Miss Walter, stood up in front of the judge, and she gave a rendition of the facts that was going to be a part of the guilty plea. Isn't that true?
I believe so, yes.
I'm not going to be cut you off.
Answer the question.
So you there, you saw it happen. That y'all are talking to the judge. Didn't you?
What's
Your
the
Honor.
question?
Your Honor, I'm just going to ask that he ask questions
Yeah,
rather than
you-
make statements.
Didn't
Ask
I
the
say,
question.
I said, didn't you?
Well,
Didn't you stand in front of the judge after Ms. Walter had spoken to the judge?
Yes.
Right. Didn't she say in your presence that you had told her you didn't know what happened to Greg Rice the night that he was brought to the funeral home? You didn't say that, did you?
I don't recall saying that. Do you have something I could read?
Yeah, let me hear you something.
Oh,
Can I see what you're showing him, please?
Yeah.
he's gonna mess
I'm
up
not
this
gonna show you
plea.
this one, though. I'm just loving what this guy, right? It's your faith.
The prosecutor actually reading it.
Never want to. I didn't want to. More business. For identification. Yes. For identification. Yeah, I just turned it there for, can we do it? I'm not gonna ask you about it, you might want.
Defendants one, marked.
For identification. Mr. Dontell, you're welcome to look at all this document. It is certified by a court where it's present during your guilty plea. You like this lady here, is taking everything down?
I'm familiar.
That's
Yes.
where this came from. Okay? Now, I'm interested in page 7. Starting at line 15. I'll just read that and I'll ask you some questions. Oh, gosh. Hey, we need to get his handcuffs off. He can't. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. 15.
The no sock attorney is the one on the left, guys.
What's that?
Can you see it well enough to read?
I can, yes, sir.
Jump ahead.
On which page?
Page 8.
Page 8. And what lines?
Let's just go. Let's go to line 16, beginning with according to.
What date is this statement from? This is from the.
Page one, eight.
Yeah.
Get it together with the papers. The Lincoln lawyer. That's the one not wearing socks.
I'm not sure. This is, give me just a second. All right.
Camera guy just zooms in a little. Right, this guy is waiting just like the rest of us. Like, come on.
Thank you. I'll call the security if you want to take wrong thing. I'm just leaving it there. I apologize.
Defendants two, for identification.
If you're showing him something different, can I see it, please?
Excuse me?
If you're showing him something different, may I see what you're showing him, please?
No, I showed you one, I showed you.
You just switched out the exhibit.
I've got mine up there. I said, well, what you saw went over, you did mine, I said mine. You can see this.
I'm asking to see what you are going to show Mr. Dontell.
Simmering up.
You boys trying to find the point out on something else. Yeah. Still got it wrong. Yes, sir. All right. Your Honor, can I show you this one? Even though it has lines on it.
If it's not an exhibit.
Okay.
Just a little bit of contention there, Sunshine. They do look lost.
Defendants three, for identification.
This is that same transcript we've been talking about. Okay.
A hot mess happened.
This is part of what Ms. Walker was saying. If you look down and see all that. This is her talking to the judge, and I'm interested in 17, 18, and 19.
17, 18, and 19.
Yeah. See if that refreshes your memory.
It doesn't really refresh my memory. What exactly are we looking for?
Doesn't it say that you told Ms. Walker?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh, no, that's not in the evidence.
Well, the fact of the matter is, you told, did you not tell, did Ms. Walker not tell the judge, told the judge, you claim you did not.
Objection, Your Honor.
The same, he said he didn't recall. And he said that did not refresh his memory.
Have to approach.
Have to come out another way. Do you then deny, sir, that you told Ms. Walker you didn't know what happened to Craig Rice that night? You deny that?
Objection. Just as to which time, if we're talking about the,
Overruled, I'll allow that.
You read this, do you deny it,
Do I deny that I told Miss Walter
that you didn't know what happened to Craig Rice that night?
on what date are we speaking of when I spoke with Miss Walter?
Late October 2nd, 2020.
I didn't speak with Miss Walter on October 2nd.
No, see, you're talking about October 2nd, 2020. That's denied.
Right. I'm sorry. I just don't understand what you're asking me. You're asking me when which conversation that I had with Miss Walter are you referring to?
No, you're not having a conversation with her in this one. You've already had that conversation.
I apologize. I really apologize. I'm just not following.
What? What's your objection?
that's not a question. He's
Judge,
making statements, and also Mr. Dontell is simply.
Well, he's asking back questions. My understanding is at his guilty plea, you recited the facts. and that was your facts. And he's asking him, does he recall that?
And he's already said he does not recall, and that doesn't refresh his recollection.
Let's ask him the question.
I'm gonna stay on this point.
All right.
If we're here for 100 years, because this is an official transcript of the guilty plea, it recites what Mr. Walker said. It's crucial to put into evidence that he already told another
Well, you
lie.
can put the transcript into evidence.
All right, but I need to talk to you about that. Can I put it in for impeachment purposes only and not as an exhibit? I mean, I don't want to introduce any evidence.
Well, then don't put it in, but you're not gonna be able to read it.
Judge, I'd like to set this witness aside for a minute and call Ms. Walker.
Let's finish your cross-examination.
Your Honor, I'd like to believe for a few minutes, see if I can get a hold of Judge Hyman.
Hold for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take up a matter of law. I'm going to choose you back to jury room in 15 minutes.
So it looks like he's gonna fight for a way to be able to either read. All right, we'll skip me.
I'm wrong. I get the impression that you want to impeach him on a document, which is a transcript, which he says does not refresh his memory. You want to get that transcript to the jury, but you don't want to introduce it as evidence because you want to be able to close last and closing arguments.
All I wanted to do is read 2 lines from the transcript.
Well, you read it, and he read it, and that refreshes memory. The only way it can be published to the jury is if you introduce it into evidence.
Well, I'd like you to review the transcript. I just,
For what reason?
well, because there's Ms. Walker and I both know she made that statement to the judge. And we looked up so.
Well, I think you're caught in a choice. If you want that information to go to the jury, you're going to have to put the transcript into evidence, which you're entitled to do. But you're not entitled to get something to the jury for the jury's review without it being in evidence.
I believe the law on this is, if I use it for impeachment purposes, it's not introducing substantive evidence.
I need the authority on that.
All right. Well, I need about 5 minutes right now.
All right, I'll do that too.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll stand in recess for about 10 minutes, okay?
All right, right. Oh, we got a water pour. The water pours. There were some iconic moments in this trial.
Seemed a little vague to me, but I think it might be a little risky the way I read it.
Oh, it's already, I think, Rule 608.
Yeah. Yes.
You can ask him, he's got a prior inconsistent statement, if he admits to the prior inconsistent statement, that's it, it doesn't come in, if he denies it, then you can introduce the prior inconsistent statement to impeach his testimony, but you're not going to be able to use it to impeach his testimony without introducing it to that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We're gonna move on past that right now. We need to go down to figure out how to skin the cat.
I understand.
And we may just get over that part for us. We might put the transcript in later. It's a public document. It's a judicial proceeding. It's not hearsay. It's admissible in its own right.
I understand that. That's fine.
And the state would have no objection to that admission.
But you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to get it to the jury to impeach this witness's testimony without introducing it into that.
we understand that.
All right,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, anything from the state before we run the jury?
No, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense?
No.
All right, let's bring the jury.
Back to the jury. They're going to get their notebook instruction. Their notepad.
Mr. Dontell, did your testimony today, if you don't remember what was said,
My testimony is not that I don't remember what was said at the guilty plea.
so you do remember, you told Ms. Walker that you know what happened to Greg Rice that night?
Objection.
Or do you?
No, he said he felt I'll allow that question. Go ahead.
Could you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you admit that you told Ms. Walker as part of the guilty plea, well, you didn't know what happened to Greg Wright the night of October 2nd, or did you not say that?
I don't recall saying that.
Well, that's just another lie, isn't it, Mr. Dontell? That's the biggest thing in your life. That guilty plea.
My answer would be no, it's not a lie.
Oh, it's not a lie.
You go.
Do you deny saying it?
I don't recall saying
That's
it.
been asked and answered. Let's move on.
So you don't recall what was said about you in your guilty plea?
Objection. Ask and answer.
Same question.
Yeah, I think I cut you off on that.
No.
So that was, the guilty plea is a significant event in your life, wasn't it?
Yes.
You never pled guilty to anything before, did you?
No, I never.
So, you were paying close attention to what was going on, I assume.
I was doing my best. Yes.
And you were answering Judge Hyman's questions as well as you could.
Of course.
Did he ask you if what Ms. Walker said was true and accurate? You said, yes, sir.
I don't recall specifically.
Because if you said no, sir, he wouldn't have taken the plea. Isn't that true?
I don't know. I've never done this before.
Is it more likely that you said yes, sir, or no, sir?
Objection, Your Honor. He said he doesn't recall.
It's fine.
All right, let's move on a little bit. Now, this business of you having an affair with Ms. Jackson, that ended up producing a pregnancy, didn't it?
Yes.
Good question.
You got no qualm about the fact that's your baby, right?
I've never been 100% certain in my heart.
You found out about it. You started making fun of it. You contacted Frank Howard, didn't you? And told him that you were going to get a trip to Florida out of this.
What's the question, sir?
I said, you contacted Frank Howard about her pregnancy. And y'all had some laughs over it. And you said, by the way, I'm going to get a free trip to Florida out of this. And then you went to Florida. After the pregnancy was found determined. That's true.
I don't recall. This was 5 years ago,
You don't
sir.
recall that you made fun of your mistress with a friend and that you got a free trip to Florida out of the abortion question?
I don't recall that.
Did you send her memes showing abort on it? You don't deny wanting the baby aborted, do you?
I don't deny that we had agreed that she was going to get an abortion. Yes.
You wanted the abortion, right?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, because you wanted to keep having sex with your wife and with Miss Jackson. You didn't want her to show it. Isn't that true?
That's not the reason.
Well, let's put it like this. Did you do your wife the courtesy of wearing a condom when you were having sex with Miss Jackson? You don't remember using a condom or not? You don't remember anything, do you, Mr.?
Are you talking about a specific occasion?
Any occasion that you always use a condom to protect your wife from what may happen in the sex act or from her getting pregnant? Because you always use a condom.
No.
All right. So you had unprotected sex with her. And as a result of it, it was pregnancy.
I believe I already answered that question as well.
Now, I think you testified earlier that you were hoping for a lesser sentence. Isn't that true?
Yes.
In this courtroom, you said that, so you have to remember that. That just happened about 45 minutes ago, so you remember saying that.
Argumentative.
I do remember saying that. Yes, sir.
Now, you have a history throughout this issue of trying to get what you want. That's part of your MO. You know, you wanted to have sex with your wife, and you want to have sex with Meagan Jackson. As long as you want it, you've got it for months. True?
True. And I'm sorry, but I feel like I've already answered that 5 or 6 times as
You know,
well.
I want to hear it again. That's what I'm saying. You don't tell me what questions I ask.
Objection, Your Honor.
Let's move on.
You're not going to start crying, are you?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, let's move on.
Now, you came in with forget the plea agreement right now. You came in with a handwritten statement when you were sitting down with the police. Isn't that true?
Correct.
You
Yeah.
don't remember that?
True. I remember that.
Okay. You just testified to it on the correct time, right?
And I just testified that I remember that.
Okay, you look like you weren't so sure.
Objection, Your Honor.
You sure?
Let's move on.
Is that true?
The question is, am I sure again?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure.
Now, that statement wasn't true, was it?
Which statement?
The written statement.
written statement was not true in its entirety, no.
Okay, in other words, in the written statement, you said that you weren't around for any killing. That Miss Jackson came to you and told you she had killed him. That's right. Isn't that what you said in the written statement?
Yeah, I also have already testified today that I did not tell the complete truth until my attorney arranged with the police to put a GPS safety area around my family. And once that was in place, I told the complete truth, and I've done so ever since.
Well, you've admitted here, and this is one example of it, is not to producing false statements to significant officials like the police.
I did admit that already, yes,
And
sir.
this is just another example.
Objection, there's no question there.
Yes,
That's
it
your question.
isn't it?
I would say yes, that is another example.
Now, you testified that you're worried about your family, right?
Correct.
You weren't worried about them when you were having sex with Meagan Jackson.
She had not threatened to kill me at that point.
And remember, they do not put on witnesses. The defense does not put on witnesses in this trial.
You may not remember this, let me ask you anyway. On the night of the killing, or sometime in connection with the date of October 2nd, 2020, did you come in contact with that you certified the death of a body that belonged to Mr. Fisher?
I don't recall, sir.
Do you remember talking to the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home people about the paperwork that hadn't been properly filled out? Does that ring a bell?
I'm not denying that took place, but it does not ring a bell, no.
Do you remember what you did with that body?
I already testified, I don't remember that body. I handled 600 bodies, sir, and this was 5 years ago.
Could you take him to the county morgue and call it off?
Objection, Your Honor, he said he doesn't remember.
I'm not accepting that.
I know, I don't.
Could you have taken to the county morgue there in Coronor?
I could have, yes, sir.
And do you know sitting here today, what happened to that man? Where he was?
I don't recall that particular case.
And it happened the same day of what you described as the killing of Greg Rice, didn't it?
I don't recall that particular case.
You don't recall hardly anything, do you?
I recall quite a bit, but not any of the last several questions that you asked me.
You don't recall anything I'm trying to ask you that's got any significance. You just say you don't recall. Isn't that what you're saying?
Please explain the significance, because I would love to answer it properly so that everybody understands what you're asking and what my answer is.
It's a mystery.
It is.
It's the same day. And on your testimony, there's gonna be a cooler that Mr. Rice goes in. So, for some reason, that body doesn't go to Myrtle Beach Funeral Home. It goes to the morgue, and nobody I know knows what happened to it after this. Do you? Let me guess, you don't recall.
I don't.
Well, that was underwhelming. I think redirect was really short, and I might be included here.
I'm sorry.
Client, was that those locations?
Mr. Britton brought up the 10 Commandments. I think we all know that thou shalt not commit adultery is one of the commandments. Do you know if thou shalt not kill is also a commandment?
I do know that that is a commandment. Yes.
And yet did the defendant break that commandment?
Yes.
That question. She doesn't need to characterize what we're doing. She asked you a question.
Overruled.
Mr. Britton asked you if you lied multiple times and you admitted that you had. Did the defendant also lie multiple times?
Yes.
Mr. Britton seemed to poke fun of the fact that you were afraid of a quote-unquote little woman. Can you explain to the jury why, despite her apparent diminutive size, you are afraid of the defendant?
The primary reason is because I watched the defendant murder Gregory Rice by shooting him several times, and then she told me she would kill me if I didn't do what she asked in helping him get rid of her and to never tell the truth about what happened. The answer is yes, I'm afraid of her regardless of her diminutive size.
there's been quite a bit of questioning about what happened at the time of the plea and then leading up to your conversation with the state a couple days later. It would have been 2 or 3 days later. Was the defendant out of custody during that time period when you made the plea all the way up until sometime earlier this year?
I believe so. To my personal knowledge, I believe she was out on bond during that time.
Do you have the same, straight back. Mr. Britton was just asking you about, I don't even remember his name, Mr. Fisher or some decedent. Is there something about the night of October 2nd that makes you remember that night when you don't remember one decedent out of 600 that you've dealt with? Did that make sense to you?
Something particular that happened that night is the murder of Gregory Rice. I recall that and everything that goes along with that. But this Mr. Fisher, assuming that he died that date, was not, I didn't witness his death, and I didn't, I wasn't provided any details to recall specifics about that case. So I simply don't recall that particular case without some type of refresher.
Nothing further.
All right, you may sit there.
Thank you.
So there was that. We're going to watch the plea hearing. It was an 8-minute plea hearing. And that, because I really think that was a disastrous cross-examination. I think the facts were bad for Meagan Jackson. But at the same time, the defense attorney was approaching, and it was unorganized. It was all over the place. The defense for Meagan Jackson is approaching this as if they're trying to prosecute Christopher Dontell. And I get that there's strategy there, right? If somebody else did the thing, then my client maybe didn't do the thing. But they weren't even getting there. They weren't laying that out. They could have said, look, you had feelings for Meagan Jackson. You believed, whether true or not, you believed that Gregory Rice may have been a bad person and may have been treating Meagan Jackson poorly. And you wanted to do something about that, didn't you? You know, get to some motive. You wanted to take Gregory Rice out because you believed, well, there's other evidence that you believed, whether true or not, that it was Gregory Rice who may have sent that anonymous packet exposing the purported pregnancy to the mailbox at your home, right? Meagan told you that that was Gregory, and you believed her, and you were mad that Gregory did that, weren't you? And you know, you say you've never met Gregory Rice, but you knew the whereabouts, you knew whereabout he lived, didn't you? You could have had the opportunity to go over there and do this by yourself, and then have Meagan go along for the ride. And it could have been you that pulled that trigger. We heard from you on direct that you supposedly know where the gun was dumped. We know that you were the one buying the evidence to cover up the body. You were going to get the tarp. Like, there was some, I'm not saying the jury would have bought that, but as a defense attorney, I don't think getting up there and going, you're a bad person too, is enough of a defense for your actual client. So all in all, I don't think things would have changed for Meagan Jackson, even if the defense attorney had a different approach here, or she had a different defense attorney altogether. But I just don't understand this approach at all. And I think it was like bottom 10 cross-examinations I've seen of all time. So, and again, there were some moments where his credibility, he kind of shook in his credibility, and I don't think they played on that enough. Yeah, you said you were interested in reducing the time you were facing. Let's talk about that. We didn't really focus in on that with this defense attorney. But with that being said, I have not actually seen his plea hearing yet, but Law and Crime has it. Now we'll get the captions on. We'll see what goes on here. Yeah.
And you concur with.
Okay, and it starts in the middle. So that sucks. Hopefully we didn't miss the acknowledgements.
And you concur with this decision? Good morning, Mr. Dontell. How are you?
Okay, this is the beginning.
Dontell, are you currently under the influence of any drugs or alcohol or anything else that would affect your understanding?
Or of Meagan Jackson.
Are you aware of any mental, physical, or emotional problems that would prevent you from understanding these proceedings? Now, Mr. Dontell, you're here with your attorney. You have signed an initial of my acknowledgement of rights form, indicating that you understand your various trial rights and constitutional rights, but that you want to waive those rights and plead guilty here today. Is that correct? And you understand that we've already picked a jury on this case. The jury's here. If you would like a trial, we can have a trial.
Your Honor, I don't believe you sworn.
And you're correct. Let's go ahead and swear you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Mr. Dontell, now that you've been sworn, does that change any of your interest in previous questions? We're going to go over them just to be on the safe side. And again, are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol or anything else that would affect your understanding of what we're doing? Are you aware of any mental, physical, or emotional problems that would prevent you from understanding these proceedings? And again, I see that you signed an initial of my acknowledgement of rights form indicating that you understand your trial and constitutional rights, but you want to waive them here today and plead guilty to these two charges. Is that correct? You understand that we picked the jury the other day and that they're here waiting if you would like to proceed with your trial. I also want you to understand that the case that we have and these charges, you obviously have a right to have your attorney here. I'm just going to go over some of the rights that you've already signed and initials that you understand. But you understand at your trial, if you would have gone to one, you would have had your attorney with you. You would be able to call your own witnesses. You would be able to cross-examine any witnesses the state may have. You understand that? You also would have had the right to testify or not testify. You understand that? And I want you to understand that if you had chosen not to testify, I would have instructed the jury that they can't hold that against you. You understand that? But you'd like to waive all of those rights, plead guilty here today to criminal conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact. Is that correct? And are you doing this of your own free will and accord?
Yes.
And you had an ample opportunity to discuss these matters with your attorney. And you also had an opportunity to see the evidence that's in possession of the state. And you discussed all of this with your attorney as well as the elements of these crimes.
I have.
Thank you, sir. If you listen to the solicitor as she puts the facts on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, if the state would proceed to trial, the evidence that would be presented would show that while Mr. Dontell was working as a deputy coroner for Horne County, he began a relationship with the co-defendant, Meagan Jackson, who was involved in body transport. As a result of that relationship, Meagan Jackson became pregnant with Mr. Dontell's child. There were anonymous messages being sent to Mr. Dontell's wife, which caused problems. Additionally, Meagan Jackson expressed to Mr. Dontell issues that she was having with the victim's burglary rights. She also specifically said at one point that she would cut his brake line, or this is my best chance to get rid of Greg. There were a number of occasions and text messages to support this, where Mr. Dontell and Ms. Jackson would essentially engage in target practice. On the day of Mr. Rice's disappearance, there is surveillance video showing Mr. Dontell and Ms. Jackson leaving their community in separate cars. There is what the state believes to be a blow-up doll in the passenger seat of Ms. Jackson's car. And at one point in a text message, she had said, "We can go to the woods and play with blow-up Eddie." It's the state's contention that that was sort of target practice. That's how it's before Mr. Rice disappears. The defendants then go to Abuelos. And then at some point, Mr. Rice is brought by Ms. Jackson to Myrtle Beach Funeral Home. His phone last connects with a network at 11:06 approximately that night, October 2nd, 2020. And that's the Lowe's Tucson International Drive, right number 31. According to Mr. Dontell in his proffer, the next day, he knew that Mr. Rice had been at the funeral home. He does not know, according to him, what happened to Mr. Rice that night. Mr. Dontell has told us before that on the next day, which would have been October 3rd, 2020, that Ms. Jackson said to him, essentially, it was him or you. I need you to go get him out of the cooler at the North Beach Funeral Home and get rid of him. We then have surveillance video of Mr. Dontell at the Lowe's home improvement store, purchasing items that were later found to be used to dispose of Greg Rice's body, specifically a tarp, ratchet straps, 2 cinder blocks, and some zip ties. There was a sheet found wrapped around the victim that matched the sheets at the North Beach Funeral Home. There's also cell phone data showing Mr. Dontell cleaning off the tower near where the body was dumped. And LPR is showing him traveling to and from that area, as well as surveillance video from the PE exchange going towards the dump site and back from the dump site. I believe that's everything.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dontell. Mr. Dontell, you've heard the facts that stated by the state, what they believe were the facts that occurred that night, or over those period of days. Are those facts true and accurate? Yes. You understand when you engage in activities like that, it's breaking the law, correct? Correct. Are you pleading guilty to these charges freely and voluntarily? Yes. Are you satisfied with your attorney? Very much. Has she answered all your questions? Yes. Do you have any questions of me? No. You understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up your right against self-incrimination. You understand that? Because you're telling me that you committed these crimes. Other than the state allowing you to plead to these 2 charges, has anybody promised you, threatened you, or coerced you in any way to get you to plead guilty? This is your decision to plead guilty. Again, you're doing this freely and voluntarily with no coercion by anybody else. Have you understood all of my questions? Yes. Have your answers been true? Yes. And you understand that the sentencing range on these penalties is 0 to 5 on the criminal conspiracy and up to 15 years on the accessory after the fact. You understand that? And I could sentence you to those penalties consecutive. You understand that? Meaning it would be a total of 20 years. Yes. All right, Mr. Dontell. I find that your plea is freely and voluntarily made with the consent of competent counsel when you tell me you're satisfied. I will accept your plea. The state has indicated that they would like me to hold sentencing in advance to a later date. I do want to retain jurisdiction on this case, given that you have pled from it. Like I said, I believe that your plea is freely and voluntarily made, so I will accept it, and we will withhold sentencing or hold sentencing in advance to a later date. Thank you. Anything, Mrs. Zimmercheck?
And Mayor, we appreciate you as retaining jurisdiction. We appreciate the state working with us to make sure that the facts are correct, and we will look forward to appearing in our meeting.
May we have a
Yes.
Let's see, it looks like it ends here, so I don't know what happened after they approached. But yeah, I mean, we heard some. It seems like the state, at least in the way they read the factual acknowledgments here, they were asserting that the pregnancy was real. It also seems like we heard target practice being alluded to, but it's a new extra layer, a new detail that they had evidence that they plan to show at trial that Christopher Dontell and Meagan Jackson repeatedly got together to practice, to do target practice. And that could be important because it could show they were getting ready for this day together to go do this big shooting. And then I think the biggest thing of all here, the factual acknowledgement at this plea hearing, at that point in time, Christopher Dontell had only admitted that he knew something happened and that Meagan Jackson said it was either him or you, but he wasn't present at the time that it happened. And yet, when we just looked at the trial testimony at Meagan Jackson's trial, he's saying, I was there when it happened. I was in the van. She had me drive there. And he obviously knew that she had shot him. He said, pop, 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 pop. and that they had loaded the body together and brought the body to the funeral home. But at the time of the plea hearing, it seems like the facts in the plea agreement were just, I don't know. I knew the body was there, but I didn't know what happened. That's a pretty big change. And the defense seemed like they were trying to poke at that change, but they didn't get there in a way that could help their client. Again, the only way they really could have helped their client was to suggest that, the culpability of our client. You could have done the shooting yourself because you wanted to get Greg out of the picture for one reason or another, not just you both did this together. So there's that. That was interesting. That was a nice, quick little plea hearing. We didn't have essays read out. And I think that's a wrap then. So Meagan Jackson, she's doing life without parole. Christopher Dontell has 20 years minus time already served. That's a lot for the family members and all those affected to put back together. So again, Gregory Rice is the victim. Rest in peace to him. Crazy, crazy story, guys. My only word of advice is a breakup is never as hard as, dealing with something like this for people that can't deal with a breakup and they choose to go a route like this. Never worth it. With that being said, I mentioned possibly doing a YSL rewind tonight. Some of my meetings for tomorrow moved as well, so maybe we could do a morning. I'll decide after I have my 1 o'clock meeting in 15 minutes here if we're going to get together tonight for a little bit. Just look for that notification. We're really just looking back at what prosecution, really Adrian Love for the bulk of the YSL trial, the way they were moving and maneuvering through evidentiary issues and witnesses in the YSL trial, and why it was such ultimately just a hot mess. Probably to the point where that's why we have this big whomping acquittal. And now one of my favorite compilations of all time.
It was an amazing time. Are you certain?
Like, was it really an amazing time? I don't think so. So that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in and watching everything about the closure of this case. Again, Meagan Jackson was the trial we watched, but Christopher Dontell was obviously intimately related, even though he took a plea because he was a star witness. This stream's going to redirect over to Dolly Talk, who is doing a court roulette. So moving around between different courtrooms, watching a lot of bond, arraignment, some plea hearings sometimes, and sometimes even some trials. So that's always really fun. See you over there if you come hang out, or see you later if we do the love stream. Bye, guys. Have a good one.